what we try and do with charities is like sometimes it's like I could give you some money, or like I could give you my skill. It's gonna be worth more.
Some companies do it the other way around, and a lot of charities get pulled into what I call a beauty parade.
But I think there's an assumption, David, just sitting here. I just assumed that disabled children were well looked after by the state.
For me, Tonali has potential of being a great. He is very, very good, but
What did you do on the weekend? Did you watch the Champions League final?
I did watch the Champions League final, and Luis Enrique was magnificent.
Yeah, that was like.
Did you watch it, David?
No.
No, I mean, because unfortunately the story with Luis Enrique is he hit you.
I know the story behind
it.
The banner that was up and all that kind of
and I
thing,
think that's gone under the radar, hasn't it? And everyone's forgotten. And then these young kids turned up for Paris Saint-Germain and played out of their skin, and then the fans were magnificent, weren't they?
Yeah.
And did you see the T-shirt? I mean, it was just I found it very emotional.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and the football was fantastic.
Yeah,
There's a good video of him talking to the team, not the current team, I think previous team, before a game, telling them what he wants from them and all that kind of thing. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
And he's like drilling into them like about the importance of, you might think you're just a forward kind of thing, but if you see your teammate at the back struggling, it's your job. It's not your job, it's your job to go back and support
So,
them.
man. Well,
it's very similar to Newcastle kind of thing. I think that attitude of,
and he's turned out. He does all
team.
these. He does that. He's done Ironmans.
Yeah,
I mean, he took his T-shirt off. I mean, he must be 60,
50, 60.
50, and you're thinking, hey, I look like that in the mirror. Well, maybe I don't, but no, I thought that it was fantastic. It was just disappointing that the French went mental afterwards at home after winning it. You know, the locals.
Used as an excuse to loot again, didn't they?
Well, it was funny. I saw on LinkedIn that somebody I follow, she said she was going for a romantic weekend to Paris. She's a Newcastle fan. Going to Paris for a romantic weekend with a better half. And it would be good to see how the French celebrate, and then you saw all of and you think, can you imagine just walking down the Champs-Elysees or the River Seine for a romantic walk, and I've got all them mental French people going ape.
But I think one of the problems with it is that it's positioned, when we watch it over here from the media, it's positioned as if they're fans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not football
they
fans,
weren't football fans.
No.
No.
Any hooligan element like that isn't really.
They just use it as an
that's
excuse.
not people who are supporting the team. They're using it, like Shane says, as an excuse.
But yeah, I was really chuffed.
The only thing I found funny was, how they keep saying like it was like a fairy tale thing of like they've brought through all these really young players and all this, and it's like, yeah, they have, but they also paid like 50, 60, 70 million for each of them young players.
Exactly. Well, remember when they played at Newcastle and they had Mbappe and they had the Galactians, and we beat them.
Yeah.
What he's done though as a manager is fantastic. The project that he's working on. He's I mean, I know you're saying that they're not like free young people. They've been
they've not like come through the system or whatever. But at the same time, if you look at, is it like Dembele, the striker? Like, do you see him? He was like, every time the goalie put the ball down to take a goal kick, he was like this, staring at him like on the edge of the box. Like, as soon as you touch that ball, I'm coming.
As David said, I think the ethos of the team is about hard work, and that's been drilled in by the manager, and they were all focused. It'll be interesting to see what happens, how they develop next season.
Yeah, it will. It's going to be a challenge for them, I think, now, because it's the similar thing to what happened when Eddie Howe first came in with us. It was like we had this new style of play, and then people get
But I think, he's a good. We know he's a good manager. He, obviously, through his daughter's illness, he gave up the Spanish team job, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he's come back into the.
He was Barcelona.
Apparently, I read something this morning that Chelsea had looked to take him on board, and they didn't for whatever reasons. Oh. But anyway, would have only lasted 12 months there, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you see the manager for Inter's left?
Yes.
He's gone to that Al Hilal in Saudi
Arabia. Incredible man, isn't it?
He's going to get something like 70 million for like 2 years' work or something.
It's stupid money, isn't it? I don't get it. Do you see
in some respects, though, if you're at a certain point in your career, and and I know there's a lot of criticism about footballers chasing money.
It's their job, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a job kind of thing. It's like anywhere, you know what I mean? So if you get given an opportunity that is too good to be true almost, you're going to take it.
100%.
The difference is...
The bit about that Inter manager, though, is he's lost the Champions League twice. You would think, from a competitive nature, and the fact he's got loads of money anyway, that he'd want to try and win the Champions League when he's been so close twice. But hey, good luck to him.
I think he was getting a lot of criticism because they were on for the treble and they lost everything.
But they were an old team.
Yeah. I think that's.
Did they lose everything?
Yeah, they didn't.
Because I watched the Napoli game. Did you watch the Napoli game with them?
Bologna won the cup.
Did they? Wow.
And then Napoli won the league, and then obviously PSG won the Champions League. So he ended up with nothing. And like you say, I think with it being an old squad, it's like, can I be asked to rebuild this team?
Well, that's
or can I be asked to
should I just take 7 million?
Do you know what I mean?
Very good point.
Definitely what I'd do. Because it's the same with because Fernandes turned down the money, didn't he, for Man United? So
that's an interesting story in itself. The Man. Do you follow football, David?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one, the Man U thing.
Yeah, so
I don't think Fernandes would. I didn't think he would leave anyway. I mean, yes, it was 200 million quid or something, but he's got a young family. Am I right in thinking that you've got to stay in Saudi for so long
to get the tax?
Because Jordan Henderson go over there from Liverpool?
But he came back too early.
And he came back too early. He said, I don't know if he didn't make as much money as
he would do.
And is that how it works?
Yeah.
So Fernandes would have to go. He'd
have to go for like 2 years or something, probably.
Wow.
I don't know. But
so Ivan Toney's over there he's been there more or less 12 months, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's got like another 12-month sentence, and then he's
But a lot of them stay. I think it's like, obviously he's 30, 31, isn't he? I think Bruno Fernandes. So it's like, it's. I think he was going to get 700.
I think the saddest thing about football, knowing how we don't want Man U to do very well, is him staying. Because it looks like they've got our two players.
Yeah, but I don't think
that we wanted to lap, and
I also don't think. If you look at the nuts and bolts of how Amarim wants to play, he's now signed his 2 number 10s that are going to play behind his striker.
Which is where Fernandes will play.
So Fernandes is going to have to play deeper, and he's not very good deeper. He's not got enough legs, and he gives the ball away a lot because he tries a lot of. Obviously, he's a good creator, but when you're a creator deep and you lose the ball, that's what happened he lost the ball in the final when they lost to Spurs.
He's lost the ball a couple of times in big games, hasn't he?
So I don't know if he'll actually.
It makes you wonder though, like about them going to Man U though, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
Like if you look at the last few years for Man U, and yet they still seem to be able to attract these players. So it's
the big club that we were.
It is, but you know what I mean. It's
we were just talking before, David,
about
the comments we get or the podcast gets, and obviously we put lots of stuff on there from a local point of view. As soon as you mention Manchester or Liverpool, you realise from the amount of comments and badness that we get sent.
Yeah.
It's all to do with just the size of the clubs, you know.
But because it was Mbuemo wanted 4 times his salary, which would have made it. He's on 45 at the minute.
He wants like 200,000.
Well, apparently he wants £250,000 to go to Man U.
Yeah, so.
And then they'll give it to them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
and then you think, well, will Jim Radcliffe cave? You know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
And apart from watching football, I didn't do much else. I went for a walk. Jesmond Dean. There you go. About you, David? Any walking?
Saturday went to Alan Banks, Starwood Gorge.
Oh, yes.
Up Bardon Mill way kind of thing. So it'd been a while since I'd been up there. Windy as anything it was, like, but it was nice. It's a nice place to go. There's a few people kicking around kind of thing, but it's generally a quiet place to go and have a bit of a wander.
Actually, I did a race night on Friday night in Barnsley.
Did you?
For the local cricket team.
Your legs tired, didn't it?
Oh yeah, piggybacks. But I was thinking the one that you organised, crikey. The hard work there, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that like the virtual,
the virtual one? Yeah. Lost every race.
It's funny though because we did it as a charity. We did it one this year, but when you look at all the stuff, how it changes over the years and modernises, race nights haven't
changed at
all. So the films, the clips of races at the show are still like from the 70s and 80s.
Right.
So I said to the guy who did ours, and I said, like, how many clips have you got, kind of thing, you know, because if we do another one with you, is it just going to be the same races and I'm just going to win every time? And he goes, oh, no, I've probably got like 120 races or something like that. And he's got like pigs, sheep.
I was going to say, there's only just horses, do they?
Oh, no, loads. Chariots and all this kind of thing. So,
what did you do, Shane?
Not much. Walk the dogs. Took the kids to the soft play.
Oh,
classic. Standard
dad
weekend, really.
Yeah. I went to see Final Destination, you know, the last, or whether it's the last one, Bloodlines or something like that. It was good. I thought.
Was it good?
Yeah.
I've heard a few positive reviews about it and stuff, but
because I remember, like whatever it was, like 25 years ago, going to Warner Brothers Cinema in where the university is now.
They won't even know where that is.
I don't know what that is.
So you know where, if you come off Central Motorway, where the big Northumbria University building is now. Yeah. That used to be a cinema.
That was the first.
Warner Brothers.
That was our first, Newcastle's first out of town cinema. Really, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was a big one, you know. It was really American, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was big. It was just American. Felt you park your car on the front, then you go right up to the auditorium.
And, so went there, £3 I think it was, to go and see the first Final Destination.
How much was this one? For £30?
No, it wasn't. It was £7 or something. So
Actually, I'm tired as well because I've just remembered last Thursday night, 10:30. I thought, what am I going to do? I started watching Mobland.
Oh yeah, I finished that as well.
And then it was 3:30 Friday morning. I'd watched 4 or 5 of them. And I'm like, great, it was getting late.
And then did you have to wait until Sunday for the last one?
And then I was away Friday night, and then I basically came back, and after watching the football, binge watching that. Hey, it was brilliant.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's had a bit of criticism.
Well, they were criticising the accents, but I don't think. I mean, I think if somebody hadn't mentioned that to us, I probably would have thought, oh well, they're not great, but it didn't affect the show at all. Tom Hardy.
They were saying that
new hero.
Like if you know Guy Ritchie likes accents to be over the top. That's like the whole point. It's kind of bad on purpose. It's like that's like what it is.
How old's Helen Mirren?
72.
80.
She celebrates her 80th birthday in July. I can't believe that. And there's have you seen the new one that's coming out with Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren? I think they're like detectives again.
Right.
And it comes out in August. I presume it's on Paramount or whatever.
She's done a few at the minute. She's done...
Cram them all in before the end.
Oh, what's the one before Yellowstone? Either 1923 or 1823 or something. She's done one of those where she's Irish as well. And then I think she's got another one. It might be the other Pierce Brosnan one.
Right.
I think she's Irish
in that as well.
So she's obviously done some training.
Yeah.
I thought I might as well use my Irish accent.
But Mobland was great. They haven't even decided yet if they're doing a second series. They're talking about doing it. They're talking about doing it, and but it won't be out until the back end of next year or early the year after.
Yeah, it's been good though.
That's the problem because they get so many commitments with other. When you get like a solid cast like that, you get so many other commitments. It's hard to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've never really seen anything with Tom Hardy, and I know he's done various things. No, that was one of the first.
I think you don't realise how much he has done in alternative stuff.
And I saw an interview he did just with, I don't know who it was, but he's so placid and laid back and cool, isn't he?
Yeah, he was in like a B&M's or something in Darlington one day, wasn't he?
Yeah, because
somebody got a photograph with him, and like I couldn't believe I saw Tom Hardy in B&M's, and he was just buying some sweets or something like that.
But he's quite, when he talks, he doesn't talk the way you expect in real life. I thought you'd have been a really sort of southern, sort of Cockney, but Vinnie Jones type. Yeah, but he's not.
He's quite. If you think of all the different types of films and stuff he's done like everything, hasn't he? Yeah. Like serious, comedy, like gangster. Like he's done literally like
reading kids story times.
Yeah,
I remember you did that one.
Yeah, what are you joking?
On BBC, what was it? I can't remember what it was called now.
Jack and Ori?
It was like a Jack and it might have been Jack and Ori, but where like celebrities were doing it and Tom Hardy.
But then all that happened was all the like housewives were just like
watching
it. It was like no kids. It was just
honestly, they're spoiling for everybody, don't they?
And he does loads of stuff with animals and that as well, doesn't he? Because he's like, I think he's a big patron for like loads of animal charities and stuff. So
seems like a decent bloke.
You should get him to host a race night of pigs and ducks.
Well, no, because that's cruelty.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Don't start that, mate.
No. I'll cut that bit.
All right, cool. So we'll get into the important stuff now. So we've got a guest again this week, which is David, who's from the Sunshine Fund. So David, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on yourself?
Yep.
Obviously, have you been in? Obviously, you're
prison.
Oops. You're head of charity at Sunshine Fund now. But how did you get started in charity? Has it always been what you've done, or?
Yeah. In some respects, yes. I mean, my background, and Jeff will know this. My background was really financial services. So going back to the early 2000s, left university with a degree in biomedical science, which is obviously really useful really when you're going in financial services. But it was one of those, as loads of people do, got a degree. Whilst I was doing the degree, realised I didn't really want to be at university. Yeah. But had to complete it because it was back in the days where you used to get student grants. So you used to get a grant to go to university, and university was free back in the olden days. So got a grant, but if you left university early, you had to pay them back the grant. Oh, right. So it was like, no, I'm just going to have to stick with this and complete it kind of thing, because obviously I'd had a few grants over the years. So completed university, got the degree, and then kind of did the typical student thing of just trying to find any job really at the time. So did all sorts of things from security on the town moor. So when they're
just in the day, like when there's nothing on.
Nothing on. Yeah, so literally when they're setting up the hoppings.
Oh yeah.
Again, going back 20 or so years, when they're setting it up, they used to, and presume they still do, used to have security on the field to stop the unwanted guests kind of thing, parking up
Were
on
you
the
Paddy
field
or
and all that
Max?
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Paddy or
I had,
Max?
yeah, exactly. So it was the corner of the field, this little porter cabin, and I did the
God.
night shift.
Nice.
So literally sat in a porter cabin all through the night, stopping undesirables, bringing
Whatever
trucks,
one.
caravans, all this kind
Crikey,
of thing.
was
on
that?
the
Right, that
field.
was interesting.
And then every like hour you had to do a walk around the field and all that kind of thing. So it was.
Do you have a torch?
Had a torch.
Oh.
But it was one of these where it was the security company's probably not even around now, but it was like blue shirt, proper shirt with the lapels on here,
Oh,
and a
proper hat.
you know what I mean? Like the ones you see now, like kids are kicking in shopping centres and all this kind of thing. It was all that. So anyway, so did that and did all sorts of other jobs throughout the years, kind of thing. But then happened upon a job at NatWest on Grey Street.
Yeah.
So NatWest used to have the first floor on Grey Street looking out over Monument. So where Windows is, Central Arcade, all that kind of thing. And got a job as a business advisor. So I was, 23-year-old. And then spent the next 7-8 years working for NatWest, business advisor, business manager. And it was during that time that I got the opportunity to work with a few charities and all of that kind of thing in terms of like supporting them. We'd created like a community development role where it was supporting charities, trying to get them basically get their business accounts, so to speak, onto our books.
Yeah.
So started getting involved with loads of charities, started volunteering and all that kind of thing. And that's what got my original interest back then. Left NatWest, set up by myself in terms of financial services, so I had my own company. And again, even through that time was still involved like as a chair of a charity, so used to deal with, throughout the time there's been all sorts of different charities. But it wasn't until coming out of COVID, got the chance to work for a charity which I'd known and kind of done some stuff with, Daft as a Brush in Gosforth, which is like
I think I've seen the vans driving around.
You would have seen them, really bright and all that kind of thing.
Dementia stuff as well.
Yeah. So worked for them for 2.5-3 years, and then the opportunity came up to join the Sunshine Fund as head of charity. So I'd never ran a charity, so to speak, before. Yeah. And I just thought opportunity, it was a really, really well-known charity. So it was one of those where it was an opportunity too good to miss, really. So that was nigh on 12 months ago.
Yeah.
So May whatever it was last year, started there, so yeah.
Have you noticed a big difference in going from sort of this role in a charity now, running a charity as such? Is it a very different?
It is. I think one of the big things that you realise with charity is there's loads of challenges within charities, and it's a really hard sector to be in at the minute. But when you're running a business for profit, obviously your main aim there is to deliver a service, generate profit, whether you're director, manager, whatever it may be. So that's kind of your purpose there. The challenge that comes within a charity is you're obviously trying to manage staff, generate income, but there's obviously a bigger purpose to it.
Yeah.
And there's a responsibility that sits on you, you know what I mean? So now there's a responsibility that sits on me that we've got to deliver certain things, otherwise the beneficiaries of the charity are the ones that
miss out.
Are going to miss out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a huge pressure on you, not only to be running something, but also because the focus is on you to say, well, you know what I mean, if you bugger this up kind of thing, this is what's going to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, like you say, with a business, if you make a mistake, you just maybe don't make profit for that year or whatever. Exactly. Whereas with a charity, it's like the people on the receiving end don't get the things that they need to survive a lot of the time, isn't it? So, so with so obviously with the Sunshine Fund, then do you want to give us a bit of a background on what it is, who you help, all of those sort of things?
So one of the big things for me in joining the Sunshine Fund was because it was well known. So the full name of the charity is the Chronicle Sunshine Fund, because it's linked to the Chronicle newspaper. So the real background to it goes back to 1928. So in a few years we'll be celebrating.
No, I wasn't around.
I was going to say,
Jeff was the founder. So 1928, what happened was Tyne Bridge opened. Yeah. And George V came to open the Tyne Bridge. He donated 15 quid, which is the equivalent of about 800 quid now, to the editor of the Chronicle to take some kids from the city who were living in obviously deprived area or that kind of thing to the coast for the day.
Right.
And that's really the origins of the Sunshine Fund, hence still the connection with the Chronicle and all of that kind of thing. So that was the original kind of purpose, was supporting, obviously, these vulnerable kids. Where it's transitioned to now is, so we support now, still just regional, so we just support kids across the northeast, but it's supporting kids with additional needs, disabilities, life-limiting conditions. And the simplest way to describe it, although I'm trying to stop describing it this way, so obviously the best way to do that is by describing it again this way, is we provide equipment to kids with disabilities.
Right.
That can be anything from a child with autism, where perhaps they need something to regulate their, behaviour and regulate their emotions and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it could be a much more expensive item like a wheelchair or something like that.
Right.
Now, the gap that we fill is where NHS, statutory services, local authorities stop, is where we step in.
Right, okay.
Which might sound peculiar, but what happens is wheelchair services, as an example, will provide a wheelchair for a child with X disability.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that that wheelchair is actually fit for every part of that child's life.
Yeah.
So a normal wheelchair kind of thing might not really be suitable for a certain school environment.
Yeah.
Might not be suitable for,
outdoors or something
like the weekend,
yeah.
I went to Allen Banks, that's not a place where you could really take a normal wheelchair.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, what you tend to call a wheelchair in that situation is a working chair. A lot of kids will spend all their time in a working chair. Yeah. So when they're sitting watching the telly, it's their working chair, sitting, eating their tea, working chair. Yeah. So it can be all sorts of things, and that's what there's loads about it that I didn't realise. So you've got kids there who have a need for something else, but in terms of the UK and how it's set up, it can't be provided through taxpayers' money.
The system, basically,
in essence. So that's where there's just massive failures in terms of the system, in terms of how, and how in essence kids are being disabled kids and kids with additional needs are being let down by the system because we're so far adrift from it.
Yeah.
Like I did, one of the things when I started was getting some research done because I was interested in what I was saying there is about that gap.
Yeah.
So in a lot of situations with charities, you'll look at that gap that you're trying to fill, like how big is it? So, it might be, going back to daft as a brush, there's a gap in transport. There's a lot of people who don't complete their treatment because transport's an issue or the cost of transport or whatever it is. Well, what is that gap that we're trying to fill so then you can start working it out? So I thought, I knew the figure would be big, all that kind of thing, commissioned this work, and in essence they came back to me and went, we can't really find the answers. Some of the reasons is because local authorities aren't holding the information. They don't know how many disabled children there are.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's all sorts of different levels of, obviously, disability. There's some disability, you've got things like, autism, ADHD, all these kind of things. Some kids are waiting like 3, 4, 5, 6 years for diagnosis. And if you haven't got your diagnosis, then you can't access certain parts of equipment and resources that you need and all that kind of thing. And again, that's where we step in. So anyway, did this and the numbers were just astronomical, like from a national perspective kind of thing. And it just blew my mind at that point to think,
how am I going to fill this gap?
Yeah. I thought this was an easy job. But yeah, and you look at it and go like, this is like, and people don't know. That's the problem. People don't realise.
But just what you're talking about now, people just, I would have just expected the NHS to supply those services.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
And it's ignorance more than anything. That's
to the point, again, I mean, a wheelchair's always a really like easy example to use. Yeah. But like a wheelchair can be supplied, but then it's kind of support cushions, rain covers, power packs.
But it's what you said about the wheelchair and a working chair. I would never have known there was a difference because you're not familiar with that scenario. But obviously, families that are familiar with that will know the differences, and obviously, it becomes a big part of the child's.
Well, it's everything. It's development. It's opportunity. It's safety. It's improving their health and not making their situation or their condition worse. All of these kind of things, and then it goes beyond that to education. So, in terms of education, a lot of our kids are in school environments that aren't suitable for them, or a lot of their parents feel forced to take their kids out of school.
Yes,
because they're not a suitable environment anymore. So that whilst we talk about one thing being the health side of what we do, the education side is actually huge in terms of the difference that you can make.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to, just because a child has additional needs, disabilities, all this kind of thing, do they not have the same right?
Yeah, of course I do.
Of opportunity, of being educated and, having these opportunities. And it seems in the UK at the minute that they don't, because with simply the deficits we've got are so...
So from the research that you did and the gap that you found, do you now, is it a case of, are you now trying to focus the charity onto a particular area? Or because you got the research, have you realised that you can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, one of our challenges is that we deal with, in essence, all conditions.
Yeah.
And almost it would be simpler if we came out and said, actually, we're just going to deal with 6 conditions.
Yeah.
But then we're excluding a lot of people from that, and it goes against kind of...
And I suppose you've got relationships with families now who've been with the charity for years.
Yeah.
You've got to support them, because you know now that that support isn't available outside of there. So you need to focus on the
exactly
families.
That. So from the money side of it, in terms of what we found out was that we can't really focus on just one specific group, but in essence, what we need to do as a charity is try and change our story and the way we present things.
Yeah.
Because I think quite often with charity, and I get the frustration, that if you're watching daytime TV, you get the adverts which are really, really sad, and might be like a dog's charity or something like that, and all you're seeing is images of dogs that have been neglected, abused, and all this kind of thing, and you think, God, this is... And I was kind of always of that mindset that, do we really need to play so heavily into the
negative?
Yeah. And over the last 12 months, I've realised, in essence, you do.
Yeah.
Because
really?
otherwise people don't get the seriousness of it.
Right.
Now, from our point of view, what we can do with that is we can highlight, like one of the things that popped in, I'd seen a poster the other day that said Shy Ben's getting out. The thing that we always see, Shy Ben's getting out. And I thought it would be a good take to say, well, disabled Ben's getting out.
Yeah.
Because they're in essence forgotten.
Yeah.
Because for some people, and this is disabilities across, the whole, all ages, disability is an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Because people are scared to talk about it. If I'm talking to somebody who's in a wheelchair or with a disability, or, just behaving in a way that I think they might have an additional need, a lot of us will avoid that conversation or that situation.
Yeah.
For fear of upsetting them, saying the wrong things, offending somebody these days. Whereas a lot of people who are campaigning around this at the minute are saying, well, actually, it'd probably be better saying something rather than nothing.
Than saying nothing.
Because most people, most people with a disability, I think if you said something to them that was inappropriate or wrong, they would just correct you and say, actually, I prefer this way. That's fine, there we go, you know what I mean? But for us and for me, it's about we've got to be starting to have this conversation, especially with it being kids.
But I think there's an assumption, David, just sitting here, I just assumed that the disabled children were well looked after by the state. So you telling us that today is a massive eye opener.
Well, we had it. Obviously, my daughter's got autism, and she got like the initial diagnosis or started going through the system in COVID.
Yep.
So we always say we were lucky because in COVID, so many things were locked down that the people within the NHS had more time. She went in because she basically would do this thing where she would lay on the floor and like grab her blanket, and she'd like, it looked like she was kind of having a fit, and you'd go down to her level and she'd be looking straight through you. Yeah. So we took her to the hospital for that, and they were like, oh, that's nothing. But we're a bit worried about her development. So then they got us in with like speech and language and stuff like that. And we started going through the process.
How old would she have been then?
So she was 2.
Yeah.
And then just before her 3rd birthday, they gave us the diagnosis that she had autism.
Yeah.
So we were like super lucky. Like we've been in the process from like a young age, whereas now like when we go to soft plays and stuff, so she's really outgoing. But she's got, they say speech delay because she talks, but she talks in her own language, sort of thing. So when we go to soft plays and stuff, she'll just go and try play with some kids.
She's friendly.
And I'll go over and be like, just she wants to play with you, she can't talk, but blah, blah, blah. And then I'll get talking to people, and there'll be people there with like 8, 9-year-old kids being like, we've been waiting for 3 years to get our diagnosis.
Really?
Like we're in they think our our son or daughter's got autism, but they're like 8 or 9 years old, and we're so lucky that like before she'd even gone to school, we knew everything. The speech and language person was out at nursery. She's now in mainstream school. Like, yeah, she can't talk and stuff, but they say when we go in for parents' evening and stuff, they're like, she understands everything. Yeah, you know, but because she's had
a provision in that school to support kids with autism and everything like that. Yeah.
So she's now, what they're doing now is she's had like all the different, like a PECS book, then she had like a feelings book, but she's so savvy that she just gets bored of it so quick. Yeah. She's just like, she doesn't want to sit there and point saying, I feel happy. She doesn't want to do that. She'll just go, blah, 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 and expect you to understand. Yeah. But now they're putting her onto a system it's like an iPad.
Yep.
Where you basically can like, it's just a bit more interactive, which will obviously keep her mentally...
Lost voice, man.
Yeah. But that's a good example. So the iPad kind of thing is a good example. So in school, local authority would provide that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's provided as an education. She won't be allowed to bring that home.
Yeah, they were saying
that's where you would step in.
So that's where we would step in and replicate that and put that in the home. Because that's the problem that we're saying. You need this, but because
So I'm familiar with the Evening Chronicle Sunshine Fund, but how do families find out in the real world about the Evening Chronicle Sunshine Fund or the Sunshine Fund to get that equipment to take home?
So a lot of our referrals, so we've got an application process. So as simply as it is, every quarter we have a panel sit and assesses applications. Yeah. So from kind of May...
But how do I get my application to you? How do I find out about that?
So most of our applications come from professionals. So they'll come maybe from a teacher, they'll come from somebody, you know, like a...
so you educate sort of the occupational therapists or the schools that you're
So we deal with a lot of those, and then they'll refer into us. Now that works, and it works really well. We still get families apply direct.
Yeah.
So it works really well. The difficulty we've got, and a lot of professionals have got that we deal with, is we get some applications from professionals where they recognise it could take a long time for this kid to get what they need.
Yeah.
So then they'll come to us
to try and accelerate.
And then unfortunately, we've got to go back to them and go, this is your local authority, they're supposed to provide it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sit with it. And that's heartbreaking for us. It's hard for them. It's a hard conversation with parents. But that's the way it is, you know what I mean? That because
does your team have? So if you get the application in, who delivers the good news and the bad news? Do you have to do that, David, or do you have a team of people that do that?
No, so we've got we're just a small team. There's only 5 of us, but Bev, who's the family coordinator, she deals with everything from speaking to families initially to say,
and that's her responsibility to.
So then, but I mean, in essence, the professionals, because when somebody applies, obviously we've got an application form that gets put with 2 supporting letters. It's got to come with 2 supporting letters, and then you know the quotes for the equipment or whatever it is and all that kind of thing. In essence, what we're doing is we're checking the professional's opinion to say, is what they're saying is right? Does it meet our guidelines in terms of, you know, are we providing something that statutory services should be providing or anything like that? You know what I mean? So we're kind of just rubber stamping somebody else's. Yeah. So it would never really be where an application comes to us, somebody waits a while, and then we go back and go, no, you can't have it kind of thing. We'd usually always be able to preempt it before what we say, before it sits at the panel, and they decide. So then they decide, and then obviously...
And the panel, is that you've got a panel within the Sunshine Fund that makes that decision?
So again, we've got a group who are just volunteers. They're all professionals, you know, education, occupational therapists, all that kind of thing.
Right.
They give us their time every quarter. They'll go through all the... We process the applications. They get, obviously, summaries of each application.
Do you get many applications?
It varies. So, you know, it's one of these where, again, this is one of the challenges with charity, and specifically small charities, is for us, we could, like Bev's really, really good. She can do the outreach and all that kind of thing. We could full-time Bev out, going to family groups, support groups, all this kind of thing. You know what I mean? And just doing that.
Yeah.
But we'd be overwhelmed. So we've got to manage the outreach that we do to make sure we're not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because in essence, if all of a sudden we get 50 applications for the next quarter,
somebody's got to process those.
Well, actually, it's the money, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we say it can take up to 12 months from application to getting your equipment, which...
Wow. Sounds a long time, doesn't it?
It does, exactly. I totally agree. I didn't realise it was that long, but that's being honest
Especially
with families. Mostly it's quicker than that.
Yeah, but especially with children when they need it now.
Yeah.
You know,
But our main challenge is, as simple as it is money. You know what I mean? If we could secure bigger pots of money, we could push the outreach more, grow what we do, and all that. But we've got to be really careful.
So in the olden days,
yep,
when Shane didn't know what a newspaper was, still doesn't know what a newspaper is, but obviously the Evening Chronicle was a massive local newspaper, and from memory they used to fund appeals through collecting whatever or doing whatever. With newspapers now diminishing, how do you get your name out into the northeast public domain, and have you seen revenue fall from historical because the Chronicle's not as popular as it was, or not as you know?
I think you've got for us being a charity linked to. So I think one of the important things is that people don't realise that we're linked to the Chronicle. We're not the Chronicle.
Yeah, we always thought the royal we always thought that it was a charity that was the Evening Chronicle's charity, and only with you working there and me finding out a bit more that I've realised that it's not.
So we get no financial support, and you know, in terms of the Chronicle, it's not, you know, rolling in cash in any case or anything like that. So we get no financial support. We get in-kind support. So their offices in Newcastle, we use their office in Newcastle.
Exposure, that type
of
stuff.
You know, all that kind of thing. But I mean, in terms of like, you know, column inches, we've got to fight as hard as anybody else to create a story that's good enough.
To get in,
we have like a couple of campaigns throughout the year where we get, you know, over and above what probably a normal charity would do to support campaigns. But otherwise, it's the usual places where you've just got to get your name out. But again, it's double-edged for me at the minute. We want to get our name out so that families, professionals and everything know what we're doing, so we can help more people. But in essence, the other side of charity is you want to get your name out and align yourself with the public, corporates, because in essence, that's where the most important for us.
That's where your funding's going to come from, isn't it?
We've got to build this war chest.
Yeah.
Because historically over the years, we've always been pretty steady in terms of what our income's been. We've never had any huge highs or any, you know, really, really low lows. But for me coming in, one of the key things that I've spotted is we've got to build this you know, big reserve of money so that we know that, say, for argument's sake, for the next 12 months, we can support each round, and then you've got that breathing space to start building even beyond that, or bigger amounts and all that kind of thing, which comes to the other thing, which, you know, I know we've kind of briefly mentioned outside of sitting down here, is about charities and how they use money.
Yeah.
So you see, so for us, you know, we hand to mouth's probably a bit extreme kind of thing, you know what I mean? We're quite often I'll say we're a skint charity, but we're all right, you know what I mean? We've got money in the right places, and, you know, a big thing for charities is about having reserves. So Charity Commission, like obviously who kind of oversee charities, they expect charities to have a certain amount of money, and that's so that you can, if something happens, survive for 3 months, 6 months, and you set your own. So, you know, we've got all of that kind of thing, and in terms of reserves and all that, it's, you know, we've got that security there. But when you look at some charities and organisations, their level of reserves are just colossal. Really? You know what I mean? Like absolutely astronomical. Now, some of these are big national charities where their levels of reserves need to be huge because of the amount of staff they've got and all that kind of thing. But a lot of funders, so we apply to all sorts of trusts, foundations and all that kind of thing for money. A lot of those will look at it and go, hang on a minute, you've got £5 million in reserve and yet you're coming to us for £50,000.
Yeah. Why don't you?
We think you should use some of your reserve first before you start asking for money off us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where the general public, I know we can't all be investigating charities and all that kind of thing. And you wouldn't, you know, it's not right that we do that. But there's a lot of, you know, it's uneven in the charity world in terms of the world we're fighting in. And I always use the example, like when I was in financial services, I was competing with people in financial services. If we were doing mortgages, I was competing with you as a mortgage advisor. There we go. It's simple. when you say charities, everybody goes, all right, well, so you compete with other charities. Yeah, I do compete with other charities, but I compete with education charities, children's, a cancer charity, animal charity, and I'm competing, with so many different types of sectors.
Yeah.
That it's sometimes really hard.
Yeah.
Because we've got different emotions, you know what I mean, in terms of what we're triggering.
Yeah.
One of the best examples is the Donkey Sanctuary charity, and I think their income's like 50 million a year or something like that. It might not be the exact figure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got huge income because the way they deliver it is so emotive.
Yeah.
About these donkeys and saving them, and people like a donkey and
people
all that
sponsor a donkey.
Yeah, and yet I'm sat here with kids, disabilities, additional needs, literally, with their parents carrying the burden of guilt and all of this kind of thing, and the financial hardship that sits there, and I'm like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. All charities are worthwhile, but please, let's. So it's an uneven playing field that's really hard to negotiate and all that kind of thing.
I think it is. It's you look at some of the mainstream charities. I mean, we do stuff for charity, like through the business and stuff, and I've always tried to help local charities, but I always try and help local charities I guess it's kind of as an individual, I want to try and where I'm going to make a difference, or like where I know if I can raise £1,000 for somebody, it's like it's going to make a big difference. It's just you saying that because you
think about not disabled children or even disabled who want a sports club these days. Sports clubs, historically they were always funded.
Yeah.
But I presume there's no funding available for those through the authorities. People have got to do it themselves. So you're competing against everybody, aren't you?
Well, you see it all the time as well, where you see like leisure facilities kind of thing. You saw it where they were all moved on to charities and all of that kind of thing, and then some of those failed. We saw it in Newcastle with Urban Green.
Yeah.
So I think it might have been during COVID or before COVID where the council took all the parks, Leazes Park, Exhibition Park, all of these kind of things, and created a charity called Urban Green, and farmed all of those assets into the charity, and it became its own entity to run itself and all of that kind of thing. Right. Council put a huge amount of money into it, and in fairness, there was a side of it where Urban Green's expenditure, in part because of COVID, was just astronomical, and they ate through that money really, really fast. But then now the council's just taken back all assets from Urban Green and all this kind of thing, and Urban Green's, going the distance because the council believed that it wasn't fit for purpose anymore and all that kind of stuff. So you've got that where that kind of thing's happening, and that happens a lot across charities and all that kind of thing. But I think from my perspective, there's a lot of grey areas in it, in terms of what goes on with charities. And we've got the Charity Commission and, various regulators and all this kind of thing. But for me, there needs to be, and this is probably going to, bother a lot of people in some respects, it's one where you've got to be careful kind of thing is, we do need greater control around charities. That's not saying charities are doing anything wrong, but in essence, I could have something happen to me tomorrow, and that could trigger. So the charities come out of trauma, life event, an accident, all of these things, and I could create a charity tomorrow. And as long as I do only pay with all that kind of pay me fees, the charity will be created.
Yeah.
Now, I could create in this building here today, but in the far end of the building could be a charity doing exactly the same as me.
Yeah.
So when are we going to have that joined up? I saw one this morning with a charity in Northumberland that's set up. I won't say what the charity is. They've set up, but I know of another bigger, still local charity that's doing the same as them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, wouldn't it have been better to have that conversation and go, we want to set up in this area, but actually can we work together on it?
Yeah.
As opposed to all of a sudden, all we're doing is just creating more and more competition, more and more complication around it. And it makes it hard for the public. You know what I mean? What am I supporting? What are you doing?
Yeah. And in reality, if the morals of the reason you're setting up are to help the people, then it's kind of irrelevant.
It would make more sense.
It would make more sense 100%. To combine your resources and come together.
And that's the key thing, because charities are set up for a purpose.
Yeah.
Well, like a core purpose. What are you going to deliver? So surely you're right that it's, well, if that's what your purpose is,
it's genuine.
Then this is your best option, actually, is for you all to come together and create something together. But that doesn't happen.
No, I think, I always sit and think with, the amount of money that gets raised for some of these massive charities and things, and you think like for there still to be an issue
Yeah,
for some of
yeah.
these, and you think like you've raised like probably £10 billion, and it's like well, and there's still all these people in these problems, and you're like, well, where does the money go?
Where's the money go?
Yeah. You're right. There's a guy in America called Dan Pallotta who's done all sorts of things. He had a company back in the 80s, in the early days of like HIV, AIDS, all of that kind of thing, and he created something called the AIDS Ride, and he was one of the first people to start creating like massive participation events.
Yeah.
And these were like full across America, all of this kind of thing. And he did a TED talk about 10 years ago now, and it was seen as one of the best, most sort of change-making TED talks ever done. He produced a film a couple of years ago, and he talks a lot about that, which is about, you know, that difference that's being made. Because his big point is, when we're looking at charities and why they're set up and all that kind of thing, are they actually making a difference?
Yeah.
But is the reason they're not making a difference is because they're competing with the commercial world.
Yeah.
And basically the commercial world's there to deliver a service and create profit. That's fine. We pay taxes to basically look after everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a gap in the middle, which is getting bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that getting bigger, and why is that reliant on charities? And even some of the things now that we probably don't realise are actually supported by charities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think, I can't remember the exact figure, but it's between the 60 and 70% mark of cancer research is done by charities.
Right.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's funded by charities and all this kind of thing. So it's just huge.
Yeah.
And even if you go to, you know, like the likes of the Freeman Hospital, there's so many elements of the Freeman Hospital.
It's all volunteers.
Bobby
charities.
Robson.
Yeah.
Daft as a Brush that we're talking about.
The
all
little
of
shops.
these, you know, all of these that are supporting the NHS. So it's right. There's, you know, a lot of people say, you know, we shouldn't exist. All these other charities shouldn't exist. You're exactly right. But the fact is they do.
They need to.
So
yeah.
what?
But it
is
sounds from
happening
what
kind
you
of
said,
thing.
they've got to exist.
Yeah. So they are making a difference, but it's kind of almost going back to that systemic failure of, you know, if governments consistently fail to look at things.
Yeah.
Like the government at the minute have just done this thing with breakfast clubs.
Yeah.
So they've introduced all these breakfast clubs. Well, hang on a minute. Greggs were doing that already through the Greggs charity, providing breakfast clubs. So now the Greggs Foundation are changing their purpose slightly because they know that what they were doing is now being picked up by the government, which is a fantastic thing, which means they can now divert something and go, well, actually, education, kids is still
looked after a little bit,
so we'll do something else now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've still got huge, you know, breakfast clubs all over the country and all that kind of thing. And that's what needs to start happening.
Yeah.
But then you get the grey area of should charities be political and campaigning, which a lot of the politicians hate.
Yeah.
And some have openly said a charity's job is not to start challenging status quos and all this kind of thing. Yeah. Well, whose job is it then? If we're the one working tirelessly to raise the money and fill your gaps, surely we're the ones that
especially if you say
entitled...
60 to 70% of cancer research is done by charities.
Yeah. Well, even homelessness is another one where we've got all these homeless charities supporting people who are homeless, but actually the problem of homelessness is worse than ever, so it's bigger than ever.
Yeah.
So we're having to create charities, and charities are having to be bigger to support those who are homeless. But at what point is it going to be looked at to say,
we need a solution?
We need a solution. We need to start bringing that number down, because at the minute we're not delivering that at all. You know, but not even close.
This what tends to happen though is like, because these charities are set up helping people, then people think that's the solution. When it isn't the solution, is it?
That's
it's
firefight.
It's literally a plaster over like a temporary solution, rather than being like, okay, like you say, these numbers are getting higher, we need to sort this. They're like, oh, well, that's okay. These charities are taking this workload off of us, so we'll go concentrate elsewhere. It's like, I think I look at like some of the ones where they're like, you know, abroad, money gets sent abroad, and I just think like some of the countries in like Africa and that are so corrupt. It's like,
I'm not saying I'm anti-donkeys here, but you know, from David's point of view, that figure would be interesting if you think how much money would go to a donkey sanctuary.
Yep.
Probably not necessarily in this country.
Yeah.
And then we've got young children, disabled or not disabled, who need funding.
But as well, with the donkey sanctuary example, and again, apologies if anybody from a donkey sanctuary is watching this, but it's a human problem we've created.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of the other aspects of charity are not what's been created. it's
and with the gap in the market that the Sunshine Fund try and fill.
Yep.
That's obviously a national problem, and what you're doing, your charities funds local children.
Yep.
And is that just in Tyne and Wear, or is that just in Tyneside?
So it's across the whole northeast. So
the northeast.
Yeah. So the only place we're kind of touching to the top end of Darlington.
Yeah.
But the bottom end of Darlington, what have you, we don't do.
Which again is interesting, just again from the old name to the new, you know.
Yeah.
When you call it the Sunshine, because you say the Evening Chronicle Sunshine Fund, straight away I just thought it was Tyneside.
Yeah.
But I presume there's charities right across the country that are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, there is.
Which I'm not saying not from a competition point of view. But do you work? Would you get involved with people like that to find out as ideas or education or?
So like there's a big charity called New Life who do the same as us. They cover nationally. You know, they're a different beast to us, kind of thing. But yeah, so there is other charities that do it in terms of Northeast, and for what we do, where we're kind of almost exclusively just doing, you know, this one core purpose. We do other stuff. We provide some like family events and parent care events and all that kind of thing. But we're the biggest in terms of what we do, and where I would say we're small, really. Because when you look at the national picture, the scale. So sometimes what will happen is we've got some limits on amounts that we'll do on certain pieces of equipment. Otherwise, when we're going back to money, it would just finish where, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes what you'll find is, you know, if a bit of kit is £15,000 or something like that, New Life might do 7.5 and we might do 7.5.
Yes. Right. So you can share.
You know what I mean? So there's some situations where that, but again, even with charities like New Life, you've got situations where, whilst financially it looks as if, you know, they're in a much, much better position than us, sometimes because of just the way they operate, they can actually be slower than us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why, again, when we're talking about local, you know, one of the big things I talk about is, you know, it's really important to us and me about being local and not, you know, even if we were successful, like more successful in terms of what we're doing and growing, I don't think it will be ever right to go, let's eat into this area, let's go to Cumbria and do it in Cumbria.
Yeah, no.
Because
it's going to dilute
if you're not fixing it and doing it as best as you can in your
area,
then let's not start being something we're not, kind of thing. Because it's not about, you know, going back to what we were talking about before, it's not about the charity, it's not about my ego or the charity's ego in terms of we're huge, we're brilliant, look at all of this amazing things we're doing. It's about what's our core purpose, are we delivering it to the maximum that we can, and at the minute we're not. So let's do all the work we can to get to that point first.
Yeah, totally. I don't see a lot of, and I'm not saying it's not done, but I don't see a lot of publicity about the people that you've helped, or the you know, and I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that's a thing that you
don't do enough of it, and part of that is because
for me that's awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, and part of it is because it's complicated in the sense of like when families apply, they get asked the question, like, can we use your story and all that kind of thing. So a lot of them don't. You know, we've got kids who have been adopted and we've supported the family, or we've got a lot of kids from other countries and all that kind of thing, where obviously they don't want to be publicised and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So so there's all that side of it, but story and the story that we tell, we're like a million miles at the minute from that, about you know, where the charity come from, what we're doing, why it's important, the families will help, because until we do that, like I said, the line we'll always use is we'll provide equipment for disabled kids. That's the least sexy and appealing thing I've ever heard. And it doesn't tell us. It tells us what you do, but actually doesn't tell us what you do either.
Do you know the story? You know the beach. Is yours? You know the beach equipment at Whitley Bay. Is that yours?
No, so we don't apply. Like we do provide some groups with equipment. So like we used to provide even the likes of St Oswald's Hospice with sensory stuff and all that kind of thing. For some of their kids, but then we stopped doing it. Basically, we've got a thing now which says if a charity is bigger than us in terms of income,
their charity's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, then we won't. So some charities have fell out with us because we said we're not going to fund this anymore.
But they'll be doing it themselves.
You're 12 million, and we're like half. Half a million, not 6 million.
So with obviously Sunshine Fund, where does the bulk of your funding come from? Obviously, you do events and stuff, like we're saying, the question of sport thing and things like that. Is that primarily, obviously you have the, I guess, grants and stuff from various places, but
so there's like two different parts to it, kind of thing. So again, one of the big things in charity is restricted and unrestricted money.
Right.
So in essence, your unrestricted money is your stuff that comes from events,
what you raise,
funds, what we raise, and that can be used for anything. So it can be used for your core purpose, or for us equipment, or it can be used to pay salaries, insurance, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Your restricted funds are where you've specifically applied for something and said, will you give us £20,000? We are going to buy X, Y, and Z with it.
Right.
So we're kind of probably 50-50 in terms of restricted and unrestricted.
Yeah.
The good thing for us is we're a small team, we're a small operation with low overheads, so unrestricted money, free cash, isn't such a big issue for us.
Yeah.
Because we know we can operate. The big thing for us is we need more restricted money.
Yeah.
A lot of charities hate it.
Yeah.
Because it restricts what they do. Whereas for me, it's like, if somebody wants to give me £500,000 to spend on wheelchairs, that's brilliant.
That's what you want.
I can show you where every wheelchair's gone. I can tell you every story about which kids had it and all that kind of thing. So
I guess with you being a small team anyway, your unrestricted money goes on a lot of what would be restricted stuff anyway. You probably buy wheelchairs and stuff with what would be classed as unrestricted money because you're a small team.
So for the example, like our Question of Sport event last year, and again, this is one of the grey areas around charities kind of things. A lot of charities will have an event, have a ball or a dinner or whatever it may be. And then after the ball or whatever it is, they'll say, fantastic, thanks very much. You helped us to raise £25,000.
Yeah.
A lot of charities will lean into the big number, which is the total income for that event.
Yeah.
I don't like that personally.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't like it is because I believe we should be telling the figure of what we're actually going to spend on core purpose.
Yeah.
So a Question of Sport, we knew going into the evening that would cover costs. We'd sold tables, obviously paid for all what we need to do and all that kind of thing. So I knew on the night I could say every penny that we raise in this room tonight will be spent on equipment, directly, local kids, all that kind of thing. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So £12,500 on the night, in essence, was unrestricted money.
Yeah.
But I made it restricted and said, this is the
we'll spend £12,500 on equipment.
Which is what, from a regulation point of view, that's what charities are supposed to do. So if you're saying at a ball that you're going to,
but you could have stood up there. I'm not saying the numbers, but you could have stood up and said, "We've made £25,000 today." Yeah. But the reality was only 12.5 of it was going to be spent on. But your way is the best way.
Yeah, and it's I think it's just a straightforward way of doing it.
I like that.
In terms of, and it's not dishonesty, but it's giving an honest picture of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I think if we're saying we're spending, we've raised 25,000, a lot of it again is driven by ego and wanting to be the biggest and the best.
I'd also expect consciously that money was going to go to the kids that needed it.
There's a part of probably what's needed in charity as well now is like repairing trust between the people that are donating and the actual charities themselves, because it's like you say, if you're sat there going, we've raised 50 grand and then it's like we bought 2 wheelchairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Next year I'm going to be like, well, I don't want to give you any money. Whereas if you're saying this money,
any money that's raised on that night's going to go for,
it's like you start building that trust again in people donating. And like I remember when I was like younger and stuff and lived with my dad and that, we'd always donate to like children in need and stuff. And now I'm like, that thing's had about £50 billion worth of money, and it's like, I get there's always going to be children.
I'd rather do local stuff.
Well, are we helping the children in need in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, they do local stuff. So children in need do,
Yeah, but you don't necessarily see that though, do you?
You don't, and that's the difficulty with a big national charity.
Charities,
And, you've got it across the board, without naming names, you've got, a whole, remit of big national charities, employ thousands, generate, hundreds of millions, all this kind of thing.
Oh, yes.
And are they doing good? Yes, they're doing good. There's no question about that. But what we're seeing, like, I don't know when it was, February sort of time, there was a statement came out from somebody saying, these are the redundancies that charities are going to hit this year because of national insurance rises.
Right.
Now, and it's the same we'll see with business. So we see it with business all the time where business will say, we're closing down because of, and they'll shift the blame to somebody else.
To the government.
Well, no, hang on a minute. Like, there's got to be a point where we'll claim responsibility ourselves and go, well, actually, that didn't help, but actually...
If that was enough to tip you fully over the edge.
If we actually looked at it, actually, we haven't given it a all, or the markets, or there's more competition than one was set up and all that kind of thing. So what you find with some of the big nationals who are announcing, we're getting rid of 500 staff because of national insurance rises, 100%. That's a big lump of money that all of a sudden a change in policy has said you've got to find a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But have you overemployed over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah. Because a lot of charities operate on the premise of, let's just employ more people and that'll generate more X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And it's not the case. No. Especially today, if you look at businesses now, and the charity world can learn a lot from the for-profit sector. You know, you've got people who are sole traders operating huge businesses because they're using technology-based solutions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. They're using, virtual PAs, all of this kind of thing. So they're operating huge businesses.
Yeah.
With just one person.
Or
just a couple of people. Yeah. But yet in the charity world, we've got so used to, we want to do this, that's 3 people we're going to employ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think there needs to be a shift where we get a bit,
savvy.
A bit more savvy, a bit cleverer, a bit more advanced in terms of it, and move away from...
Work smarter.
Yeah, and move away from, and I always use the example of a lot of charities start at a kitchen table.
Yeah.
And then 10 years down the line, they're still a kitchen table charity. But they may be turning over £1 million. Yeah. But they're still behaving this if they're a kitchen table charity. You're not. You're a pretty big business.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the same argument around, like chief execs and all that kind of thing about pay. One of the big touch points is, why is this person being paid £250,000?
Yeah. No.
And we'll get it in for-profit as well, when you look at, energy companies and all this and what have you. Again, some charities are turning over hundreds of million. So do you want...
Well, you can't do that voluntarily, can you?
You can't do it voluntarily, and you should never expect it. There's a reason that they're at that scale is because there's probably somebody at the top who we don't know who that person is, but they're getting paid £1 million a year.
Yeah.
Is it right that they're getting paid £1 million a year to generate £500 million? Yeah, too bloody right. It's a huge business.
Yeah.
But because it's a charity, we'll lean into it straight away and go, oh, that's terrible, that.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a distraction. We're being distracted by something easy, which is...
But it's a bit like going back to children in need. I get frustrated when you see these big companies donating big checks on the night. It's just free publicity. I'd much rather see those big companies putting that money into local businesses, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
To get their name and their brand out there on national television, which would pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for just by donating whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
I think it's important that, well, it is, and I think it's important though that we do, as charities, have that effect of encouraging corporates. And again, some of the conversations I have, and I'm really clear about it, that, there's a lot of corporates who support charities, and they support charities for philanthropic reasons. They want to, see a cause do well. But then you're right that you've got to look at some of them when they go, oh, we're supporting this. But if you actually went and asked the people making that decision and go, well, why are you supporting that charity? And the honest answer might be, because that's going to get the most publicity.
Yeah.
It's a good one, you know what I mean? It's going to get it.
Yeah.
And in some respects, that's the circle that it is. I want to support them because it's going to do good for my business. 100%, that's the way it should be. But I just think a deeper question sometimes to say, well, does it actually align with what that company's trying to do and say alongside what the charity's trying to do and say and all that kind of thing. So
I think it's just going to become more challenging because even though the government said, what is it, put more money in your pockets, it's like they're not, are they?
No, at all.
So it's like individuals, like when you're doing these fundraising things, like people don't have as much money, disposable income now, and it's a knock-on effect to businesses as well, isn't it?
We had somebody knock on our door. I think it was the blind, the national, and it was just young. It was a team, a sales team of young people, who were literally 4 or 5 of them in the street knocking on the doors, and who this, and they had their card machines, but I wouldn't feel.
And they're asking for a £5 or £10 a month donation.
So, and I was very surprised that is still.
Yeah. So you get them on Northumberland Street. So at Christmas, we had our Santa bus on Northumberland Street, so we provide that with Stagecoach, free grotto kind of thing. We do it for 2 reasons. One, we provide it for, no cost, so it's accessible for families, but also because it's a bus, it's accessible, bus gets lowered, wheelchairs, all this kind of thing. Plus we can create an environment. If a parent comes to us and goes, my son and daughter, you know, be it autistic or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
won't go into a busy department
But
store.
you're technically showing off your services that you can offer to people.
Yeah. So sorry to go back to your original point as well. So, and then up the street from us was, 3-4, lads and lasses selling for whatever charity it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they were selling your monthly direct debit, which direct debit's one of your biggest hits for your big charities. That regular giving's really important.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to one of the lads. It was bucketing down on this day, and I was speaking to one of the lads, and I was like, "Oh, you'll be glad to get home tonight." And he goes, "Oh, I won't be home until the weekend." And I goes, "Oh, where you from?" He goes, "Birmingham." And I was like, "All right, so what are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, we're staying in a hotel while we're here." So they were asking for £10 donations, say.
Yeah.
They were giving away a little gift if you signed up for it.
Yeah.
Plus they were getting paid, probably on a commission.
Yeah.
And there was a hotel being paid for. So then it's, if that was £10 a month, how much of that £10 is going to purpose? You know, you're looking at the lower end of it kind of thing.
Definitely.
Which is still producing good.
Yeah.
But for me, running a local charity, what I want is to really push that off. If you give me £10, I'm going to spend 8 of that on good stuff, you know, what we should be doing, and £2 going to be going on to the unattractive stuff, paying wages and all that kind of thing.
Because it is the thing, it's like, you know, when you speak to them people and it's like, this is what we do, this is what it's going to do and all this, and then, like you say, now understand that you step back, you're like, yeah, that's a great cause, but like, I'm going to give you £10 and it's probably going to take 6 months worth of money before any of it even goes to the actual cause.
Do you have any big blue chip local companies supporting the Sunshine Fund at the moment?
So our main ones who support us for a good few years tend to be sponsors, partners. So obviously we've got the Chronicle, who obviously, you know, there's loads to do for us in kind. CEgOs have been supporters for a good few years. They support Sunshine Run, provide buses for all sorts of other things, even like our coastal walk the other weekend. CEgOs stepped in and said, you know, it's going to save you a fortune if we just give you a bus.
Oh, really?
So they provide the
brilliant.
bus
Excellent.
to bring people back to the start and all that
Did
kind
Dad
of thing. No. So we've got that. Great North Run sponsored by True Potential. Again, they've been sponsors for a good few years.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we've got really, really good support from, and a lot of that, like CEgOs is obviously a national company, but kind of that depot is almost like an individual business.
Yeah.
And we know that management there, the drivers and all that kind of thing are fully behind what we do. You know, like in terms of the coverage we get, like the Christmas and Easter collections, the signs on the bus, you know, the stickers on the side of the bus and all that kind of thing. It would be huge for us. It would cost us a fortune to do it.
Yeah, of
and
course.
they do all that for us for no cost.
Yeah.
And some, you know, in terms of what they do. So yeah, it's great.
I think sometimes it's like that's what we try and do with charities is like, sometimes it's like, I could give you some money, or like, I could give you my skill. It's going to be worth more to. Well, I'd seen
your thing that you're going to do, your 10 hours or whatever, isn't it? And again, that raises a good point around. So for me, we're just a small team.
Yeah.
But there's areas within the team that potentially, you know, we get offers all the time from companies wanting to volunteer. We don't have premises. We don't deliver a regular service. So we're not a charity with a community centre. And this is actually a true story. There was a charity years ago that I spoke to, and they had like a community centre or a building or whatever it is. And they got approached all the time from businesses wanting to come in and support them for their volunteer day.
Yeah.
And this guy said, he says, we've literally got a room in the back that will clear. They'll come and paint it. We'll take the photographs. But he said, literally, this room one day will be the size of a shoebox. Because he says the paint's just going like that. He says, we don't even use it. We use it as a storeroom. But he says, because we feel it's so important that we've got to engage with these businesses, we've just got the corporate room that we're getting the paint. And I was like, that's bloody awful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, first of all, they're given time because they want to do good. Was it a different colour every year? I presume so, yeah.
It's crazy, yeah.
So, you know, you've got that kind of thing. So it's really important for businesses, if you're going to support a charity, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard cash. Because it can be, actually, we've got some experience. And even we were approached by a couple of students from the university, graduates. They'd been through our website, done all sorts of analysis, data and all this kind of thing, looked at usability, you know, your whole UX and all this kind of thing. And they came to us and said, we've looked at your website, can we come in and speak to you about it to see if we can help you with it? Came in, full presentation, this is what's good, this is what's bad, this is the journey that we think we should go on. And this was like back end of last year, and they were like, by Christmas we can have your new website. And I was like, probably a bit at the wrong time, because it's a really busy time of the year, so can we do over this time frame. So we're still engaging with them now. We've just done kind of surveys out for supporters, people who've been to events, and the families we support.
Yeah.
To see what journey they go on with us. They pulled all that together, presented that back to us, and now we're like at the stage of, is it called wireframe?
Yeah.
So they're at that stage now to say, right, we'll start building the wireframe for it. So we're going to, hopefully at some point soon go from a really old process of how people apply to the point where having to
do it online.
To doing it online.
Brilliant.
Or where they can half fill an application, go and do something else and come back and fill it.
And finish it, yeah.
And have, and it's just online, so that increases our capacity to do stuff.
Brilliant,
But actually doesn't do anything, you know what I mean? Doesn't do anything to affect us in any way, it just increases capacity naturally. So they've given that time and experience, which otherwise would have cost us a fortune.
Yeah, would have done.
And it's the same across all industries where, there's all sorts of things that businesses can approach charities and go. But from a charity's point of view, what you want is a company to approach you and go, right, we've got a volunteering day. This is what we're going to give you. This is the experience we can bring. What do you want? So if it's legal, we could do HR. All these. Have you got documentation you'd like us to look at? Have you got social media you want us to look at? And it's massive. Because all of a sudden, it totally transforms how you're delivering that part of you. And from my point of view, running it takes a massive weight off your mind.
I was going to say it releases
that's
members.
Not 2 years I've got to wait to do that.
And it releases members of your team as well to do stuff that they should be focused on, as opposed to other jobs that they're maybe not as accomplished in.
Yeah. And from your point of view as a company, you can use it and go, well, actually, we did that, and that's actually what we did. We did something tangible, direct, making an impact. There we go.
Yeah, we've had, so the first one, we're working with a men's mental health charity in this month in June, and they've just set up, but they have no online presence, so we're just sorting them out a single landing page website to promote their events. Then we've had a domestic abuse charity. They need help with a strategy of how they get their message out there, so we're going to be helping them in July. A homeless charity. So, and it varies. It's some are using our skills, and others are we've got this big event and we need some help. So we'll just go down and be some feet on the ground to help.
But the difference where you approached it is, because I saw it when you put it out, and you put it out saying, this is what we're doing, get in touch.
Yeah.
Some companies do it the other way around, and a lot of charities get pulled into what I call a beauty parade.
Yeah.
So they'll do, next year we're going to donate 100 hours of work time.
Yeah.
So tag your favourite charity below, and the top 10 we'll create a pool, and then you can vote on your top 10. And do all that, or put an application in, and we'll assess all these applications and see. And a lot of the time, the companies will do that, and then they'll hit the one that's going to get them the best coverage. You know what I mean? But from a charity's point of view, it's really hard. So we've got a small but good following, social media and all that kind of thing. But then again, we'll be competing with somebody with a massive following where literally they can put one post up
and get all these
votes.
That's
it. It's done.
Finished.
So a lot of charities get pulled into this beauty parade. Where it's
we
not
didn't
even
is that some of the
competitive.
stuff where you've applied for and we voted for stuff? Is that for funding?
Yeah. So some of that, I mean, there's a couple of organisations do it really, really well, where you can obviously you've got to put a post out to say, please nominate us to get £1,000 in whatever draw. But that's luck of the draw. It genuinely is. So you could get a charity that gets 1,000 votes and we get one. But our one can still win because it is a genuine draw. Whereas some of them will do it the other way. That's the thousands.
It's all based on about you need the more votes. I
mean that organisation did one recently where they donated to a charity, and what they did then is that charity then decided the next charity that they felt deserved the next bit of money. And they did this rolling thing. I think that for example, in one area it might have been that they had 10 grand. The charity got 1,000, then they decided, then they did. So all of a sudden you're really pulling it in local
community stuff,
where it's well, actually we work with them. It's going to help both. So there's some really nice thought through processes that some of them do that work really well. But I think when you start to ask charities just to present themselves, you know what I mean, and kind of fight it out kind of thing, it's hard work. And I'll avoid a lot of them now because I think it's a bit of time and effort that for the chance. We're already fighting, when we're talking about restricted money before. So we can put in applications for restricted pots of money, trusts, grants, foundations, all of that kind of thing. The success rate for that is 2% or something.
Wow.
So if I put
all that effort in.
All that effort in, and some of these can be days on applications.
Yeah.
And that's just how competitive it is.
Yeah.
Most of the funders are massively overwhelmed now. Some of them are closing.
It's
the same as what we talk about with
presentations,
like tenders.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
it's a beauty parade, isn't it? That's a good way of it.
Is.
Yeah.
But I've had it before. You know, it's like you sit there and you might be working for a day and a half, 2 days on a tender. And in reality, that company already knows who they're picking.
Yeah.
They just have to. They have to
They've
get
got to
four
go through
people.
They've got to
have to
go
get
through
four people to get it. But you already know them, Jeff. So you're getting that contract already.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've gone and spent all that time doing that thing, and I've got no chance of getting it. It's like I just don't do them anymore.
Yeah,
like,
don't do it.
Yeah, it's
Nah, it's hard.
So, if people want to support the Sunshine Fund, what is the best way for open your cash?
Give us your money.
Yeah, give us all your money.
Aye.
So is it? Can people donate direct on the website and stuff like that? Is it or
so people can donate direct on the website? You know, all the usual things. I think for me and for us, it's about that engagement, though. You know what I mean? What we really want is, you know, to give an example, we've got a lottery, which is a national, to be sort of transparent about, it's a national organisation that runs a lottery. Charities operate their own lotteries within that.
Yeah.
So much of the money goes to the prize pot, so much of the money goes to the organiser, and then we get, I think, 50% of it, you know what I mean? But what it is a way that people can support us.
Yeah.
Get the chance to win something, so you're going to get something back for your money.
Yeah.
But also it's a really good, the platform that they use and all that's really good for us.
Yeah.
Because every month regularly we're getting this pot of money that the more effort we'll put in,
as well,
you can actually see that pot of money growing. And as I was saying before, the big thing for charities is getting that regular donation. Because until you get that, it's always dependent on an event in November, an event in March.
Well, you start every month on zero, don't you? And then you're just trying to...
Yeah. So it's really important for charities to get consistency in income as the kind of baseline.
Yeah, baseline. Yeah.
You know, as you you know, go through it, you want to just get your good stuff and then your cream sitting above it kind of thing to do your other stuff. So but I think for us, it's about engagement, about talking, and the wider picture of people engaging in these conversations that I was saying earlier on about the situation and the state of the system and everything like that in terms of what we've got at the minute and how it supports kids with disabilities.
Yeah.
Because we are like so off at the minute kind of
thing. It feels
thing.
like you could do some really strong messaging if, I guess a lot of the time it's the same in business. It's like if you're brave enough to do that, you know.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can be brave in business because if it's your own business, you can put your own neck on the line.
Yeah.
Running a charity, you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even sometimes you don't want to say something because you think, well, if I say that might upset that person and they could potentially support us in the future.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point sometimes where you think, actually, we need to start having these difficult conversations because this just simply isn't right and the public need to know how bad it is.
I think as well, though, like the world after COVID and stuff like that, like people are ready to have them. Just like people prefer to be told the truth now. I think there's been so many like beating around the bush and like dressing things up and so long for so many years that like people are fed up with it now. Like just be honest. If there's a big issue, tell me the issue. Like, can I help? Like, you know, and people appreciate that. So I think there is like a time now for being a bit more. Maybe brave isn't the right word, but
well,
like,
no, probably is. There's a bravery element to it. Like one of the things which isn't it's kind of hidden, but does get talked about in part, is in education. So there's a thing called the high needs budget, which gets assigned to schools for educational, you know, the healthcare plans, what their budgets are for SEND provision, all this kind of thing. So across the UK at the minute, the figure's anything from 3 to 6 billion deficit, right, in terms of the shortfall in it, which is a big number. The issue that sits around it is in March next year, there's a change. So at the minute, local authorities have some flex, loophole, if you want to call it, in terms of how they do their accounting. Yeah. Which means they can, in essence, not write it off, but kind of hide it almost. Yeah. And this is known, you know, I'm not revealing anything that's not out there. So for the past few years, they've been doing that. Because when it comes to March next year, if they have to declare it, you've got loads of local authorities that are bankrupt. They'll be insolvent because of the scale of this deficit. Yeah. Because of what they should be doing. Now, what more than likely will happen is the government will step in and go, there we go. Yeah. You can do the loophole still. It's fine. So instead of looking at it and going, you know, like I'd got an email from an MP a couple of weeks ago saying, you know, this is what we're investing in SEND and all this kind of thing. And I think it was 750 million or something like that. And I was like, yeah, but you've got like 6 billion deficit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's literally, I think we worked it out, it was like 90 pence a kid or something like that. I was going to work out at. So it's just bonkers, the number. Like, seriously, the numbers we're talking about is bonkers.
Yeah.
But and it's a worry because I was so far behind now.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm just talking about that. There's, I think
Loads
across anything in terms of government spending at the minute, I think the black holes are huge. Kind of thing. So, yeah.
And with, obviously, you do events and fundraising, things like that. Can people fundraise for the Sunshine Fund? So, like if I was going to go and run a marathon or something, like can people, how do people get in touch to do that?
Yeah,
Is that like
so people can, they can just get in touch and set up their own fundraisers. Again, I think from our point of view, it's about presenting the information to make it easy for people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're working on at the minute, to give ideas, because people, it's not that people want it easy, but you need to give them options, you know what I mean? So if you think, I'd like to support the Sunshine Fund, I'd like to be able to go on our website and go, oh, that's a really great way to do it, that. So your whole...
But you do that because you do the runs, you do the jump out the planes.
All that kind of thing, But quite often, like, we've got a guy at the minute, so one of our families, he's a relative of one of our families and has seen the difference we've made to this specific family. And he set up a thing where he's got a beard and he set up a save it or shave it.
Yeah.
And he's done a masterclass in terms of how you fundraise. So he's set up something that's interesting to people and all that kind of thing. So he's had a beard for 10, 15 years or something like that. Save it or shave it. And what he's getting people to do is to raise money just given, and where they put their name in the comment to say save it or shave it.
Yeah.
And he's just gone at it simply, consistently, and just driven it. So his target was 1,000. I think he's at 1,050 or something at the minute. And I think end of June he closed it. So he set himself a good time span.
Yeah.
Knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And just, and it's never felt spammy or anything like
What's
that.
winning? Shave or save?
Shave.
Oof.
Yeah,
that's really classic. People are always going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what a bunch of gits.
This
guy's had this beard for ages and all this kind of thing.
Heartless.
Like, I remember I shaved mine off, 5 years or something. Not that I've got much now. But I had a decent beard, shaved mine off, and my wife was like, please grow it back. People shouldn't see what is under there anymore now. I actually forgot how ugly you were. Please just cover it with something. Maybe start
the campaign to save.
Yeah.
Today we're starting
reveal
the campaign.
David's face.
Yeah. Not for you.
All right, but yeah. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just something where it's really, it doesn't have to be, running 100 miles and all this kind of thing. Sometimes it's the simplest things.
People do like cake sales and stuff. I remember when we've done some stuff helping charities before, where we've made them like downloadable kits.
Yep.
That go on the website. So then it's like somebody's doing a cake sale, they can download a sponsorship form, or like
exactly right.
Kids doing things at school and stuff like that, and that's, you sort of give them the resources to be able to just download and stuff. So and the events, are all your events that you have going on, are they published on the website or?
Yep. So all on the website. So at the minute, the main ones so far this year are Sunshine Run, which is a 5k run on the quayside. It's the 22nd year we've done it. So that's closed now for registrations, 370 odd runners. So this is the biggest year we've had ever, I think. So it's always well received, really well supported by corporate. So we've got that. Great North Run, obviously in September. We've got a good team running this year for us then. And then our next big event is the Question of Sport event. At the Grand Hotel in Gosforth there. So that we're looking for a sponsor for that one at the minute, actually. Just because the company that previously done it had been taken over. Which shows you the shift, actually. It's gone from a local company, supported us for 5 years, to where it changes, you know what I mean, to a national company who I believe is taking them over. It might be that they'll still sponsor it, but obviously we've just got that time where it has to be decided and all that kind of thing. So I've said, well, ultimately we're going to need somebody who can't go through. So that's just where things shift as well, you know what I mean. So, but yeah, Question of Sport's up for grabs if anybody wants to sponsor that event. It's got to spare 5,000 quid.
Yeah, Jeff.
But that's a great event. Obviously, I know you came along and all that kind of thing, but that's a great event. And
it's a good one to sponsor as well. There's a lot of exposure on that.
A lot of exposure, a lot of professionals, but it's a different event. Same as I was saying.
We still got our Altrincham scarves.
And you can choose your scarf. If you're the sponsor, you can choose your team.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was their team last year? Newcastle?
Most people choose Newcastle.
Yeah.
Obviously,
yeah. No picking Sunderland, is it?
Yeah.
So we'll do the Well, I'll open this discussion to you guys, actually, because we had to answer it on the last podcast. So Elliot had asked me and Josh, how much would you have to be paid to get the Sunderland badge tattooed on your bicep, the size of a fist, and you're not allowed to get it removed? Like, you just have to wear like a long sleeve t-shirt the whole time. Like, how much would you have to be paid to get that done?
It's not negotiable, really.
Yeah, I said it would have to
there's
be
no
like...
monetary. There's not a monetary figure in the world.
I said £500,000 would get me to, like, I'd start to have a conversation about it.
Nah, there's not even a...
I think Josh was like...
Are you serious?
Josh was like...
Seriously,
Josh was like 10 grand or something.
Yeah, I'm with that.
What's
like,
that? I'm not.
I'm with that, like...
Josh said it was like, yeah...
Sorry.
Nah.
No, absolutely no way in a month of Sundays.
I'll tell you a quick story. So I would do a much lower amount. I mean, I'm probably
$500,000.
10 grand's probably a bit light, but
What?
I'd be, yeah. I mean,
Are you from Pennywell?
That's such a shit.
So when
shit
I worked
badge as well, though, why would you want that red and white on you? Like?
True, I. So when I worked,
Actually, Dave's. Oh no.
Worked in financial services. I was invited to the Sunderland Newcastle game at Stadium for Light, corporate. So it was back in the time when you used to have to... Actually, I won't jump to that. So in any case, I rocked up to the ground in my car. I had a nice Merc, because obviously I was a financial advisor. Pulled up at the ground, and the security guard goes, "You can't park in here, mate. You'll have to go and park in the estate." He says, "The car park's full. They haven't reserved your spot." He was like, "Are you in Newcastle?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "Just make sure there's no in your car, like, obvious." He says, "For your own benefit." So I was like, "No problems." So just outside the ground, there's a pub, which is obviously just a red and white pub. Can't remember what it's called. So I kind of pulled into that estate, found somewhere to park my car, parked up, walked across to the ground. Like I say, I had a suit on and what have you. Gets in front of the ground, and there was because it was corporate, you were there early. So the Newcastle bus was pulling in, so they just locked down everything. Newcastle bus there, and obviously all the Mackhams are giving the abuse and all this kind of thing to the bus. So I'm stood in amongst it thinking, what am I going to do here? So I saw this older fella off to my left, so I thought, I'm going to stand next to him, because he'll probably be pretty
cool,
and I won't get involved in all this chaos. So I go and stand next to him, and then he starts bouncing. And I'm like, oh God, in any case, looks, and it was Ellis Short. So I'm like, right, you know, King of Sunderland kind of thing at the time. So I was like, fair enough. So in any case, gets into the ground and all this, and gets sat down at the table. And the lassie who was hosting, she goes, "David, you not bring your tie? You're supposed to wear a tie." And I was like, "Oh, just at St James's, you don't have to wear a tie anymore." She says, "Yeah, well, this stadium are like, and they're pretty strict." And I was like, "I haven't got a tie." And she was like, "Oh no, there's one there, red and white, Sunderland crest tie, all this kind of thing." So done the starter, got away with it. And then this bloke went and spoke to her, and she came up, she says, "David, you're going to have to put a tie on." So I was like, "Need problem." So I puts a tie in my pocket, goes to the toilet. And I thought, I'll turn the tie around, put the tie on, so it won't be Sunderland crest, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Turns it round. It was a massive black cat, the full length of this tie on the reverse. So I was like, I'll put it on, I'll fasten my jacket up,
so nobody
can see, and then it'll feel a little bit better. Walks out the toilet, this lad I know goes, "No, you were a Mackham, David." And I was like, oh, for God's sake.
Well, match me tattoo.
So I had to sit down for the whole thing.
Yeah, I've been
with
there.
this bloody tie on. So when you talk about tattoos, I've had the shame of it kind of thing. So I reckon, I don't know, maybe
I'd have gone home. They said you got to wear a tie. I'd have been all right, no worries.
Well, that happened to me.
Did it?
You turn up. I was the Journal. I was corporate with the Journal. Turned up, and I think there was 2 Geordies, all Sunderland fans on the table, and turns up with actually I had a round neck top on because you didn't need to wear a shirt and tie in Newcastle. Turns up, he said, "You can't come in." I said, "Well, I'm hospitality." He said, "You need to wear a shirt." I said, "Well," he said, "You're a Newcastle fan." I said, "Well, I've got some in the cupboard." I said, "Oh, right, okay then." So he gave us a girl's blouse, which I didn't realise at that point. It fitted us. I didn't realise at that point that blouses button a different way to bloke shirts. So he gave us a girl's blouse and he gave us a Sunderland tie. And I said, "I'm sorry, mate. I've got a girl's blouse and there's no way I'm wearing that." Unfortunately, somebody had another tie, so I didn't have to wear the black.
Yeah, that would have killed me.
So no, tattoo-wise,
nah.
I've lived a life of shame.
Not a figure in this world. £1 billion, I might consider it.
What a load of cobblers.
I'm telling you, there's no way
somebody
in a month
offers
of
you
Sundays.
£1 million, you go,
the day I die, I'd have a Sunderland crest on my body. Absolutely, 100%, no way.
There was a few people in the comments. Some people were like $1,000.
No chance.
And then other people were like...
Anyone that knows me knows that is 100% true.
Not going to happen.
No chance. Never going to happen. Not in my lifetime.
And then the other one we had was... they said, how much would you have to be paid to leave this office, go outside, and the first old pensioner you see, headbutt them as hard as you can.
Well, Ethel would look. She might think it's a kiss.
And it has to be. It's like a.
Oh, that guy.
It's like a Zinedine Zidane headbutt as well. It's a full on.
Like, yeah, I'm a nice person. I wouldn't. I'm
a
lover. I'm a lover.
I said 500 quid.
Somebody had a tenner next to you and you went out and there's a woman still laying outside.
I said I'm not being funny. At least 50% of pensioners are dickheads.
So we've had chats about charity and moral compasses. What I've realised is you wouldn't get a Sunderland tattoo on your arm for all the money in the world.
Yeah,
but you're not a pensioner.
But he's not a nana.
Quid would not a pensioner.
But I'd give the 500 quid to charity after, so I'll be all right. Yeah.
Split it with her.
I'll be doing
Right. Listen, if you let us nut you and get you £1,000,
brilliant,
we'll split it.
brilliant.
Nah, there's something wrong in the world, I'm afraid now.
And then it was, what was the last one? It was, what would you have to be paid to punch a police horse outside St James's Park? It was, and we were saying about how the guy who obviously
they've lived off that forever, haven't they?
But it was like before social media was a really big thing. Like, imagine now you'd be like everywhere, wouldn't you?
You'd be t-shirts.
It's scary how long ago that would be.
Yeah, it was ages ago now.
Yeah. Hit the police horse.
Yeah. We were saying like
I wouldn't be punching horses. Man.
The horse would like.
Yeah, we're like animals, David.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Animals,
we're nice.
people.
The thing is that horse probably didn't feel that.
No,
that guy did it. They're like massive, aren't they, horses and stuff?
Yeah.
I see they picked on the horse and not the little dog. You know, the little Alsatians that the police have got. I would have sorted them out.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was on the town moor. Me and my mate walking across the town moor.
Were you in your high-vis security thing?
No, I wasn't. This was after that time. And there was obviously all the cows in the town moor. And me and him had a similar conversation. We're like, have you seen the size of a cow's skull? Like, imagine if you hit a cow's skull, like, nothing's going to happen because they know the heads on them were like this.
Yeah.
So we're having this conversation and this cow up ahead just looks at us.
Yeah.
And just starts coming towards us.
Go on then.
And I was like,
come and have a go if you think you're hard enough.
When
we went for that walk and you said if you're in a field with cows, be careful. I've always been fighting since then.
Yeah.
Don't like people.
No, you genuinely do.
So you never hit the cow's head. You just did a runner.
No, I just ran. I was terrified.
Very wise.
Dangerous animals, but the sense... fear or nervousness, so they're quite sensitive. You know what I mean. So you've got to be dominant. Yeah. Which I wasn't at the time.
I was going to say running away doesn't show that, does it?
Yeah. I've learned now though. I'm more dominant with my cows.
All right, cool. Well, we got. So Jeff, you've done these before. These blind rankings. So how they work, David, is there's 10 players, footballers, basically. So. They come out one at a time and you rank them where you think they are 1 to 10.
But you don't know who's coming out next.
You don't know who's coming out next, basically. I'm going to go... I've made a few changes, but the ones that we did on the last round have got so much controversy of opinions. So you guys didn't do them, so I'm going to redo them. But obviously there's a few different players in there. So the first one...
So is David doing this by himself?
You do them together.
Together.
Do them together, yeah.
Bad decisions against somebody else.
So the first one is... Premier League forwards, like all-time Premier League forwards.
All-time?
Yeah.
All-time.
All-time Premier League forwards. So the first one is Michael Owen.
11.
Yeah, you always put...
Well, sadly, he's blotted his copybook as a Newcastle fan, but he was a prolific goal scorer for Liverpool.
Yeah.
He was, he was, like, when he first came on the scene,
he was
so
very
good,
quick. He scored that great goal for England against the Argentinians.
Yeah.
So being diplomatic about it would put him 9.
Like, before he came to Newcastle... He was well liked. I remember being on holiday when we signed him, and people were like celebrating.
Well, we're excited about him because at Liverpool he was phenomenal, wasn't he?
Won the Ballon d'Or, didn't he, and stuff. He was,
but again, he's blotted his copybook and more than one reason. But
so you're going personal with it, really, by putting him at 9.
Well, I'll put it. I think we've got no idea what's coming out.
Yeah, true.
And Michael Owen was one of the top Premiership forwards in the early days.
Yep.
Early Prem, weren't you?
So if I was going to be diplomatic, I would probably put him at a 7 or an 8.
Let's put
if I was going to be personal,
let's put an 8 between your 11 and your 7 then.
Perfect. Number 8 then.
Sergio Aguero.
Now, you see straight away, David, Aguero, I think, was a better centre forward than Michael Owen. And I would probably have him at number 5. Only because the commentator said that. Aguero.
Yeah.
Or 6.
We don't know what's going to come out.
No.
So I'm thinking 6 myself.
Right, we go 6.
6. Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Would you say he was better than Aguero or worse than Aguero?
I think the thing that goes against him is longevity in the Premier League.
I like his centre forward style of football.
He's probably one of the best finishers
in
the Premier League ever, in terms of like.
Don't be swayed though, because he knows what's coming out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Because if we put him, say, as a 5, then
there's got to be a hound in there somewhere, hasn't there? And I don't think.
And we're going to end up putting him as number 1.
And you've decided to go for Michael Owen as number 8. So I think Van Nistelrooy would be higher than that.
Yep.
So we've got a choice of 5 or 7 in my head, and you're going to make the decision because.
Let's go 5.
Oh,
5. Thierry Henry.
Oh well, for me, he's number 1. There you go. That's being. I think he's just all-round skill, football, goals, entertainment.
I think on the last video, someone was commenting about because Salah was in there, and they were all saying, I think the guys put Salah 5th. And
I think Henry's better than Salah.
They were like, and I was like, if you put Henry in the game today, he would score crazy amounts of goals, like crazy goals.
He was a. I keep on hoping that he was a winger, wasn't he, when Wenger took him to Arsenal? And I keep on hoping that Newcastle have got a winger that can turn into that kind of centre forward. Isaac is that person.
Yeah.
But I mean, David, I'm not going. Don't be swayed by me.
It's the same. It's the whole thing of what's going to come.
But Shearer's going to come out, or Salah's going to come out. Harry Kane will come out. He might even drop Isaac in there just as somebody from this.
I think we need, but it runs the risk. I would put him maybe as a 2.
Oof, well, you go with number 2, David. That's fine. You're the guest.
Let's go with a 2.
Okay. Next one's Harry Kane.
And you've used number 5. You've only got 3 and 2. You've got 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Or you go 7.
So 9, is Harry Kane better than Van Nistelrooy? Or worse than Michael Owen? See, you're going to regret this Michael Owen one. I like the sweat. Have you got ice buckets? Was that a nervous or was that a? You've got 1, 3,
I even
4.
Remember, I've watched some of these and you're awful with the blooming numbers usually. Constantly. How many you got? How many you got? How many you got?
I know, because I know straight away. This I didn't know we're getting this today, but I'm straight in there. Numbers.
What are we going then? Second highest Premier League goal scorer of all time.
Can you imagine if he puts him higher than Thierry Henry? The Arsenal fans are going to love him. Well, both the Arsenal fans.
We've done 5.
Yeah, you've got 4.
Van Nistelrooy's number. You've got 3, 4,
4 or
6.
7.
I'm going to say 4.
4. Dwight York.
You got 9 and 10 left. Oh, sorry, you got number 1 as well.
I was never keen on Dwight York, I know, but
I would number 10. There's no seriously. Come on.
Yeah, number 10. Number 10.
Drogba.
So you've got to work. You've got number 1 available still. Yeah. Is Drogba better than?
You've got 1, 3, 7.
I know exactly where this is going.
And 9.
Nothing's going to go into number 1 till the last name, and the last name's going to be an absolute stinker, isn't it?
Drogba was a good forward.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, I think it would be better. I would put him higher than Van Nistelrooy personally. But because I don't know what's coming out next, I think Dave's got
I went 4 with Harry Kane, didn't I?
Yeah. And you went 8 with Michael Owen. Just saying.
Did I go 8 with Michael Owen?
Yeah, you did, because I had him at 11.
I still got 9.
You got 9. Yeah, you got 9 left because you put Dwight York at number 10.
Not Dwight York. Drogba. No.
Yeah, you
Dwight
put
York.
number 10.
Oh,
this
yes.
is Drogba you got to pick.
Oh.
And you got a choice of 1, 3, 6.
No, 7.
1, 3, 7, or 9.
I'm going to say 7. I know, I'm trying to...
Luis Suarez.
He did bite someone, to be fair.
He did.
And you got to put him number 9, which is worse than Michael Owen. tell you what.
It's a mess. This
I know it's a charity, David, but I tell you what, hopefully you're going to get some...
What you're now saying, though, you're like saying as if this is my doing.
Definitely.
And it's not, because this was teamwork. And
Teamwork's
involved everybody.
And as a team player, I will take full responsibility. So what numbers have we got left again here?
1.
No.
3.
No.
9.
So he's a 9.
This is number 9,
He's a 9, yeah. Due to circumstance.
Circumstantial behaviour. This is where you start to sweat because you've got no idea what's coming out.
Wayne Rooney.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. He's a good centre forward.
He is. But that's
what we've got number?
It's a 3.
1 or 3.
1 and 3.
So there's the chance is, are you going to wait for Shearer to come out?
It's not going to be Shearer, I don't
And
think.
even if it isn't Shearer,
and I think it doesn't. We'll
Rooney
go 3 on Rooney.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then he's going to come with a stinker. And it's,
No, Shearer.
Shearer. There
you go. So yeah, you got Shearer, Omri, Rooney, Kane, Van Nistelrooy, Aguero, Drogba, Owen, Suarez, York.
And to be fair, go back the number.
It's not a million miles
It's not a million miles off, but if you'd listened to me in the first place and put Owen at number 11,
yeah.
9 or 10, him or Dwight York. That's how football's coming, I think.
Yeah.
Michael Owen would have been up there in the early days, but there's some cracking forwards now. Or has been.
All right, so this is the most controversial one we've had. It's blind rank these Premier League midfielders, and these are like central midfielders. So rather than like wingers or anything like that. So the first one is Paul Scholes.
Oh. That's it for me. Would be in my top 4.
Yeah, I was.
The other guys put in 1, and that was the big controversy.
No, I wouldn't put him.
Like,
He's not.
I was thinking 3.
I don't know who's coming out.
Yeah, I was thinking 3's a fair stab for
Well,
Scholes.
because David has got ginger hair and Paul Scholes has got ginger hair, I'm going to go number 3.
Different shades, though. Different shades.
And speaking of ginger hair, Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah. I still think Scholes was a better midfielder than De Bruyne. And that is very controversial.
It's your guys' pick.
But,
Where's he going?
We've said number 3, see, so we've only got 1 and 2, obviously.
Yeah, I'm probably with you. But I think you would need to be
4.
He's going to have to be 4.
Yeah, 4.
Claude Makelele?
Never. He was too boring for me. I mean, he obviously did a job, but and he played for Chelsea. Right. So I'd have him down. I mean, he's not. I'm not saying he's not a great midfielder,
in terms of,
but in terms of entertainment,
yeah.
And he was just for me. There's better midfielder, so I'd have him 8 or 9.
I would go 9. I think stick him there, and then I wouldn't put him as a 10.
Well, teamwork now. We're working together.
That's smooth now.
Steven Gerrard.
Well, I think De Bruyne and Scholes are slightly better than Gerrard.
Not in my book.
He was shit for England.
No, he wasn't.
He was. But let's not go down that because
was Scholes good for England?
We're talking about Premier League.
Yeah, also you say Gerrard was shit for England. Scholes was shit for England. Like,
I mean, and the problem was I don't think it was the players' fault for England. It was just
all of them. Yeah,
because we had too many good midfielders.
I think the argument's always been of.
So you got 1 or 2.
No, what's coming as well though.
I mean, I know who my number 1 is a Man United player actually, but I don't know if it's coming out or not.
Should we just go 5? If we go 5,
you can go where you want, but
yeah,
that'll get you some hate.
Who would think might? I mean, Roy Keane's my number 1. Full stop. Just discussing that if he comes out. I don't know if he's coming out or not. You want leaders. And Gerrard, to be fair, at Liverpool was a leader. He took lots and lots of responsibility.
Did.
Unfortunately, on the day that they could have won the Premiership, he was wearing slippers.
Yeah. But you can't hold somebody's whole career on one slip.
So you've got it's 2 or 5.
In terms of who's going to come out,
who else do you think could come out?
I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Just pick and move on.
Pick and move on.
Well, I'll probably.
Do you think he'd be a 2?
I think it would be a 2.
Stick him as a 2 then. I'm trying to be more gambler.
David Silva.
Who?
David Silva.
Oh yeah, well I mean again he was good, but he didn't stay long enough in the Premiership for me. Where the likes of people we're talking about.
I mean, he was here quite a while.
He was a while,
like
but I'd have number 5 or 6.
He transformed Man City, didn't he?
Would you 5? Would you go further down?
I think 6 is probably fair.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
Yaya Toure.
Yeah, I mean again he was good for Man City, but he's played for Man City.
Yeah.
So I mean,
what do you think? 7.
Yeah, something like that.
That's nice.
Frank Lampard.
Have we got number 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have 5.
Yeah.
5. Yeah.
Nice. Easy, isn't it?
Patrick Vieira.
Well, we've got number 1 left.
Yeah.
And we've got number
8 and 10.
I'd have number 8. Not because I want to have him number, but that's all we've got left.
Yep.
Luka Modric.
Well, he was shit for Spurs.
Yeah.
So 10.
He's not one. And this could be messy now.
Yeah.
Roy Keane.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
So the last guys they put Roy Keane 8th.
8th?
Yeah, and he came out like early, and they put him. I think he was like one of the first ones out, and they put him 8th.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I mean, the difficult ones there was De Bruyne and Gerrard.
Yeah, they put Scholes number 1.
I would have Gerrard above Lampard anytime.
Yeah.
And I would have Gerrard above Scholes.
I think Gerrard and Lampard are very close.
Yeah.
Like, very close, I think.
Scholes is one of those players, and when he played for Man United, I think he was underrated.
Yeah.
I
he also
underrated
played
him.
in an absolutely
It's
world-class
only
team.
say it's because of the team he played
It's
in.
only since I've watched things back or heard things that you
Do you watch all
realise.
Man U games back like that?
No, listen to the flipping expert. I don't watch Man U
With
with
his Sunderland tie on.
Yeah, I watch the Man U with my Sunderland tie on. And me Altrincham, what's it called? Altrincham,
I think it was the...
what's it? Accrington Stanley?
Accrington scarf, aye.
So a lot of the comments were obviously... You see all these things where people are saying that Xavi and Iniesta said Scholes is amazing and all this, but I think the thing that boils down is that Alex Ferguson tried to sign Steven Gerrard.
Did he?
Jose Mourinho tried to sign Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
They had Scholes, they had Lampard, and they wanted Gerrard.
Gerrard, yeah.
So, it tells you that...
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at all-round game, like Scholes is the best ball... carrier.
But he scored some good goals as well.
Yeah, well, in his younger years, he was an attacking
was,
midfielder, wasn't he?
His passing was amazing.
But if you look at Gerrard, he literally could grab a shit team by the scruff of the neck and win a trophy with them.
Out of all of those there, if you had to pick 3 midfielders, who would you pick out of those 3?
You'd have Keane, wouldn't you, as your ball winner, and then I think you'd have either Gerrard and Lampard or Gerrard and De Bruyne.
Yeah, De Bruyne. I'd have Keane and De Bruyne, and then it would be Gerrard.
Because Lampard scored so many goals, didn't he? He was just like a goal machine. Yeah. So that wasn't bad, to be fair.
Good. Yeah. There's no hate coming this way.
Yeah. There definitely will be.
Definitely is,
yeah.
There's always 2 sad people out there, isn't there? But, as they say...
Everyone's entitled to an opinion.
So exactly.
Blind rank these all-time Premier League centre-backs. Oh. So the first one is Sol Campbell.
John Terry's going to come out.
Let's just focus on what we're doing. Come on.
Sol Campbell. I'd have him in the middle.
Yeah.
Would we go 6?
When he came to us,
he was dog shit at Newcastle.
He was hopeless. I think his best...
As a balance, go 6.
He was class at Spurs and,
he was.
And
Arsenal.
Yep, Stan.
Well, I'd have him above Campbell.
Yeah.
So should we say 5? 4?
5, yeah.
Rio Ferdinand.
Would you go? So I'd just go one down from Stam. 4. What did we say?
Want to do 4?
You've done 6 and 5. Yeah.
Right. So I would do 4.
Yeah.
Jonathan Woodgate.
I actually think he was a great centre half for Leeds.
Yeah.
And Newcastle, but injury prone. So I would have him below Sol Campbell. I'd have him number 7. Or would you go higher?
Yeah. I don't know, because I think you'd done one previously with Woodgate in before.
He was but he was in Newcastle,
really low, didn't he?
Yeah, he was because he was at Newcastle. He's
I
one
think
of
if you put him in if it's a conversation about Newcastle centre backs, he's really high. But
he played a season for us, and he was brilliant.
All time, of course,
all time Premier League.
But I think he's injury prone.
So I think as a player, he was very,
below
very
Campbell,
good, but probably
7.
Yeah,
Vincent Kompany.
We're both Ferdinand. Would you say Ferdinand was 5 or 4?
4.
Would you have Company up as 3? Or would you go? What's the high number you got left?
You've got
1, 2, 3 on one.
You've done 4, 5, 6, 7.
So you got a choice of 3 or 8.
I don't know. It's got to be 3.
3.
Vidic.
I didn't really see Vidic. I know Man United fans like him and all that, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
All I ever remember from Vidic is he was class, but I just remember Torres just tearing him a new arsehole every time they played.
Yeah.
It was like
so we'll
either got him sent off or turned him in.
8. Was 7 or 8 then? 8?
You've got 8, yeah.
8.
Tony Adams.
Oh, he was old-fashioned, wasn't he, Tony?
He was.
I would have him. Well, I think, John, would you have him as number 1 or 2? We've got 1, 2 and 3 left.
1 and 2.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
9, 10.
He's going to have to go as a 2, isn't he, really?
We'll go as a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you have him as 1, like?
But just John Terry did wear his didn't play in the European Cup final, did he? And he did wear his footballs during that time. That has to go against him. But there again, though, Tony Adams was on Strictly Come Dancing,
and he was pissed every time he played.
Yeah. So would you have him up? Would we have him up in the top 2 or not? Premiership centre halves. He was established
Of all time.
Of all time,
he's going to be in the
top 10.
Yeah.
So I would go. I think we've either got to go with we're head or we're heart. We're heart's probably telling me that Tony Adams would be in the top 2, but I think realistically, I don't think he's as good as some of the players we've mentioned there. So we'll go further down the line. We've got 9 and 10, did you say?
Yeah.
So we'll go 9.
Feels harsh, that, like.
It does feel harsh.
Virgil van Dijk.
See, I mean, it's getting harder now, isn't it? We've got a choice of 1 or 2 or 10. And Van Dijk, to be fair, he's been unstoppable for Liverpool. So
I hate him, but...
Yeah, I'm the same.
Would you have John Terry as number 1 or Van Dijk as number 1? I'll let you decide that, because you're going to have to pick 1 or 2.
As if John Terry even comes out.
Right, Mike, I can't think of any other centre-halves. Oh, yeah.
Putting that question in, I would have Van Dijk above John Terry.
There you go.
So what, you're putting him at 1?
And being number 1, I don't think that's embarrassing.
I don't think it is.
Right.
Any place
John Terry.
There you go. So you'd have him.
Would you have John Terry as number 1?
I wouldn't, no, personally.
No,
I would
So he's 2, yeah?
Yeah.
And then William Saliba.
Yeah, 10.
I'd go 10.
Nice.
That's worked out perfectly.
That, man.
Tony Adams is definitely far too low.
Yeah, no, but I think the people that will watch this will be younger.
You're right when you're saying head of heart.
Yeah,
and it's head of heart.
Images of him, bloody head wrapped up, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I think that he's the only one that's like really out of place.
Yeah.
I think, and that, like you say, younger people will probably think 9's fair, but
who?
Yeah, but I think if like
good lineup though,
it is.
Some good, some brilliant sense.
Last one on these all-time lists is blind rank these Premier League goalies all time.
Oof.
So Joe Hart.
Well, I wouldn't have him in my top 5. That's my scenario. What would you do, David? Are you Joe Hart? No, I wouldn't.
It's not about being a Joe Hart fan, though, is it? It's about whether or not he's.
When you think of what goalkeepers are going to come out, funny
right.
lad.
Yeah.
But if you would like to go,
no.
Just remember Michael Owen.
He was never a keeper, was he?
He was a better goalkeeper.
Where are you going? Come on.
6.
Petr Cech.
See. Funny enough, yesterday was the anniversary of it was Papa Cisse's birthday.
It was.
And they showed that goal.
I
hadn't realised Petr Cech was in goal.
Yeah.
He was.
But he was a good keeper.
He was a good
I would
keeper.
say he was better than Joe Hart.
I would say he's better than Joe Hart. But do you think he's a 4?
4. We'll go 4.
Nice.
4. Shay Given.
I think Czech's better than Given. But obviously he played for Newcastle for loads of games. I would go number 5 for Given.
Yeah. I think
in between him and Joe Hart.
Yep.
5, yeah. Pepe Reina.
He was all right for Liverpool.
Yeah.
But I think Petr Cech's better than Reina.
Yeah.
But we'll have to go
7.
So we're going to have 7 now.
Yeah.
Peter Schmeichel.
Well, sadly, he'll be my number 1.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Van der Sar.
We say 4.
We've already done 4, I think, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got 2, 3,
yeah.
8, 9,
2 or
10.
3.
Would you go that high?
Otherwise, he's going to have to go down the other end.
Would you put him down the other end?
Obviously, I don't know what's going to come out, but
Would you put him
I
down
wouldn't
the
usually, because it's going to be 7, isn't it, that we're going to put him?
8, 9 or 10.
I'll put him 8.
Put him
I know,
8
because we don't know who's coming out yet.
He was really good, wasn't he?
He was.
Really good, yeah.
But I think...
Allison.
I would have him 2 or 3.
Yeah. Not 3, though. We've only got 1 and 2, haven't we?
You've got 2 and 3.
Oh, 2 and 3.
Because we've got Schmeichel number 1. Would you have Allison number 2 or number 3?
I'm going to put him as a 3.
Right, go. I'm happy with that.
Just to see what comes for 2.
David De Gea.
Yeah, I mean...
He was good. He was never...
I would actually have... you got 2...
You got 2, 9, 10.
I would have him number 9.
Yeah.
Neville Southall.
Oh, 10.
No. Mike Cooper.
David Seaman.
Oh, well. There you go.
Right,
2, yeah.
In modern day terms, I would have Seaman lower, but I think for that top 10, blind rankings, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's not bad at all, that.
I think, Allison and Cech
I would have check probably higher than based on what we know.
You'd probably
swap him and check him and Seaman over.
Yeah, or put Alisson might be 2, and Alisson and Czech are pretty similar, I'd say.
I mean, Alisson for me
he's so good. Yeah,
he is good. Yeah.
He's never that,
But he has made some howlers, hasn't he? He has, when that was it last season when he wasn't really in the team.
I think that because it's recent, you remember them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you go back, like Seaman made some absolute howlers as well, but because he was
from the halfway line, or whatever he was.
But because of like how long ago it was now, you just remember like the Pescasolido header when he fucking dived back and hooked it off the line in the.
What's
FA
your thoughts
Cup.
on what's your thoughts on the Liverpool reserve keeper going to Brentford?
It's a good deal, isn't it?
I would have had him at the June.
Yeah, I think he's 18 million is like cheap for a young.
I think he's better than
goalie.
Trafford.
Yeah, I don't know.
As from a Premiership, but he played great. I'm surprised Liverpool have let him go.
Well, you've seen they've got the Valencia goalie.
Have they?
The one who's is he like Georgian or whatever? He's like 6'8".
Have they signed him already?
Yeah.
What's they signed him for?
20-something million. So he's going to be back up, but he's
I'm
like
not convinced Newcastle are going to do anything goalkeeper wise.
I don't think so.
Yeah, fuck knows what we're going to do.
I think
they've said we're getting Fraser Forster, aren't they? Because we need.
Shut up!
We need a homegrown.
We need him for the
Champions
Whoa,
League.
hang on a second. Talk me through that one again.
For your number of players that you need for Champions League, by bringing him in means we can have a bigger squad. If you don't bring him in, who else we're going to bring in to have? Was it 4 or 5 players?
Yeah, it has to be like an academy
between
trained.
Like 15 to 21 or something like that.
Have to be academy trained.
We've got
Gillespie.
Yeah, Ruddy.
Well, Gillespie's local.
Yeah, but it's probably an easy because the rest of the team we're not going to be able to bring in a local to have a bigger squad.
Right.
The risk is that if we don't bring these players in, when we go to the Champions League, we're going to have to play with a smaller squad.
Yeah.
Right.
It's stupid because it's like in reality,
I'm just thinking
he's never going to get a game.
Yeah, exactly. We're just putting him on for the sake of it.
We've got a 20 million Greek. We've got
Ruddy.
I think Ruddy might go.
Dubravka.
Yeah.
Pope.
Dubravka will go. Dubravka will go. We should have just let him go to Saudi, like they signed a contract and then just fucking stuck him back on the bench, didn't they? It's.
But I think at the minute, is goalkeeping a priority?
No, it's not
this
a priority.
window.
No,
you know what I mean? It's about the things like Forster coming in, managing the
Yeah,
situation.
when you talk like that,
but I think
I didn't realise
in
that
terms of
we should have the kid that's going to Man U from Brentford. They reckon they want 60 million quid for him.
What, Mbuemo?
Yeah. He's only got 1 year of his contract left, I think. Or has he got 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
Oh, but I think they've got an option of 1 more year.
I mean, 60 million for him isn't.
I would pay.
It's not crazy money. I think it's his wages that's put us off in it.
Yeah,
they've been very solid from the start in saying that they're not going to.
We won't be paying.
We're not going to break.
We're not going to be doing it 50.
Too right.
I don't know who they're. It's the list starts to go on now of like the people you thought we were.
Well, unfortunately, you look at Delap. I thought the fact that Eddie Howe was a British manager, Newcastle United's famous number 9. I mean, even if Callum Wilson had stayed, Delap would have been learning from Wilson and Isaac. I just thought it was.
But he's going to go in, and what he's done is Delap's looked and gone. Isaac, Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah.
Who am I going to get out of the team? Yeah. And in reality, it's like the only thing we were saying is you come to Newcastle, you're guaranteed at least 15 games a season because Isaac's going to be injured at some point.
But also, even then, though, I think he would have played the two of them.
He said, didn't I think?
Because I think Isaac, he could have pushed out onto the wing.
I think he said as well he wanted to try and get them both in the team, but it'll be interesting to see who they.
I mean, who else would be?
We'll end up with Wilson back.
I said that yesterday. Personally, I don't think he'll go. I think we'll end up keeping him.
Well, I've heard a rumour. We've seen a rumour with reckon Vardy.
No.
I think as well though.
Just need to play Asula, mate. Asula's an absolute weapon.
Yeah, because I was watching. I can't remember what it was yesterday, but they were talking about Asula going out on loan, saying should he go to like a championship team, get 40 games and all that kind of thing.
I think he'd be better playing because when he's.
I'm not sure about him. You see.
Yeah, I like him.
He's exciting.
Yeah.
He's a headless chicken.
Yeah.
But they should have sent him. For me, they should have sent him out on loan this season.
Yeah. Because next season we're going to have Champions League.
Yep.
Carabao Cup,
and
FA
to be
Cup.
fair, he's been consistently on the bench. So I think if you're going to send him out for loan, it should have been the season gone.
Yeah.
And if he goes out on loan, what have we got left?
Yeah. Well, we've
got to buy somebody to replace.
Because if you hear the rumours, they reckon things like Livermento Man City, they reckon Harvey Barnes Villa, they reckon Gordon Liverpool, they reckon Livermento Man City. It's like
they've said if is it Barcelona and one of the Saudi clubs want Luis Diaz, and they reckon if Liverpool get rid of Diaz, then they'll go all in for Gordon. Yeah.
But we need players in before we can start thinking about getting players out.
Yeah. We need players in even if we got rid of no players.
Yeah.
The squad's not big enough, is it?
No, it's not. That's the problem we've got. Yeah.
So we'll see. But then I've got three more, which we'll just we'll run through quickly, which are Newcastle ones. So you've done these, Jeff. So maybe we'll let David do these solo.
I'll help you a little bit, I promise.
So blind rank these Newcastle United strikers. Papa Cisse.
Let's have a think. I would have him at a 5.
5.
That's your benchmark.
That's me benchmark.
Andy Cole.
Andy Cole.
Andy Cole.
Andy Cole.
Andrew Cole, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
3.
3, fair. Michael Owen.
11.
Hey!
Yeah, he's down the bottom. He's got to be I don't think he's a 10 though. I would have to put him as
Well, what did he do for Newcastle as a forward? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah.
He scored a few
He didn't turn
goals
up against Aston Villa, and then that's just where you leave it.
I'm going to put him as a 9.
9. Shearer.
Got to be number 1.
Number 1. Shola Amiobi.
You're going to have Michael Owen above Shola Amiobi. That is disgraceful.
I was going to put Shola as 8 just because Michael Owen's 9.
Andy Carroll.
Oh God. What have I got? 6, 7, 10.
Yeah, you got 2, 4, 6, 7, 10. Yeah.
I'm going to go 6.
Callum Wilson.
49 goals he scored for us, you know.
I've got 7, 10, 4. 4, yeah.
4. Les Ferdinand.
Oh, it's getting nice now.
You've got 2.
You've got 10. And
2,
you put
7,
him
10.
below Michael Owen.
Oh, no, I love Fernand. It was one
Still
of the best
is.
signings when I'd said for years about signing
we only had him for
Fernand, and we're like,
2
if we ever
seasons.
sign him, it'll be so good. And then when we sign him, man, I remember meeting him as well at a game once. What a bloke!
I was gutted when he left.
Yeah,
So I
it
was.
It was only 2 seasons with us.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
One season with
was it Dalglish
Shearer.
as soon as that got rid of him? Dalglish?
Not sure.
Can't remember.
So I've only got 2 really, haven't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
So you got 7 and 10, and the next one's Alexander Isak.
Oh,
But it's okay, you got Michael Owen at number 9.
it's going to have to be 7, but obviously this does
Then
not
your last
represent my
one's
reviews.
Niall Ranger.
Oh, that was a lucky escape.
That was
Yeah.
a lucky escape.
So yeah, it's not awful other than
Isaac's
not-
on.
Isaac's the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
one. It's
Would you have Isaac at the moment above... Would you have him in your top 3? All time.
Is it
You know,
all time?
All
did you say?
time.
All time.
All time.
but it's for Newcastle, I think.
Yeah.
Because you got basically Shearer is number 1, Les Ferdinand's number 2.
Andy Cole.
You've got Andy Cole up there.
That
You know,
the top 3 is out of them 3.
I'd have
and
Isaac above Cisse.
Yeah, Isaac would be potentially above Andy Cole.
Yeah,
Potentially
yeah.
for Newcastle.
Yeah.
If you were
And
talking
also-
about just football in general,
The reason-
Andy
Yeah,
Cole
no,
would be
you're right.
The
ahead.
reason I asked that question was because Ferdinand only played 2 seasons with us. Andy Cole only played a season and a half.
Yeah.
And Isaac's, is this his second season? Season and a
Third,
half?
I think, isn't it?
Third season.
Third, yeah.
So, and even now we're questioning, but the reality is Isaac is better than Ferdinand and Cole in my head. But I wouldn't put him higher just because of the history.
nostalgia in it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I think it's like
true.
Yeah.
I think as well it's it was shit how Cole left, wasn't it? Like how he went.
But as Kev said, it was a reason.
Yeah. And then I think
And he won everything.
yeah, there wasn't a bad decision for him, was it really?
No,
Do you know
no,
what
no.
I
I
mean?
mean, from Andy Cole's point, it was perfect.
All right. So blind rank these Newcastle United midfielders. These are like more central midfielders as well. So Johan Cabaye.
Very good.
I was like, goodbye.
There's a
Yeah.
good benchmark.
It
for
is
you,
a
I
good
think.
benchmark.
Yeah.
I felt like last time I went 5 though, and I feel I'm gonna go 6 though.
6, okay. Bruno.
See, out of the 3 now, Bruno does the least for me.
I get that. I get that.
Like like when we're talking about transfers, if we got a crazy bid for Bruno, I would let him go. Like, and I know it's Bruno and all that kind of thing, but I just think, and I think part of that comes though from Sandro now this season.
Yeah,
like how good he's been.
And I think you noticed over the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season how much you missed Jolinton in some of these big games. 100%. When you've got another team that are like semi-physical and you don't have him in there, you're just like.
But all three of them do complement each other.
That's why. And again, when we're looking at transfers, that's why it's a difficult one at the minute because.
I mean, ideally, I don't.
Three of them can't play every game. No. You know, so yeah. Anyway, so Bruno, I'm going to stick him as 4.
Lee Bowyer.
Well, Lee Bowyer. I couldn't stand Lee Bowyer. Yeah. I'm going to chuck him down at a 9.
Jolinton.
He only cost 40 million.
Did. Where did I put Bruno 4?
And he's Brazilian.
I'm going to stick him as a 3.
3?
My choice is better than...
Hatem Ben Arfa.
Moments of brilliance.
Yeah.
But
not loads of them, but like they were really, really good.
But there were moments of brilliance.
Like you still remember them now.
Yeah, you do. But in terms of all-time
I agree.
I'm going to have him as...
Remember you put Kabay number 6?
Yeah, so I put Kabay number 6, so I would have Ben Arfa at number 8.
Sandro Tonali.
Does he drink Moretti?
He does.
He does.
The problem, yes. I see how this works. Yeah, it's not ideal.
You've still got 1, 2, 5, 7.
Well, there could be some old
10.
ones coming up, couldn't there?
Could be as well.
That's what you've got to think.
Quick,
but you haven't really gone quick because, to be fair, you've got 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Like I would.
And then you've got 1, 2.
We're talking about all time, and for me, Tonali has potential of being a great. He is very, very good, but after just a season, should we be putting him in a 1 or a 2?
Well, technically, he's been here 2 seasons.
Yeah. He's the best midfielder I've watched live for Newcastle, definitely. I think he's like class.
I'm going to put him as 2 after you've said that as well, because I don't really want to put him as 5, but I know that it's going to be a mess now.
That's not.
John Joe Shelvey.
There you go.
I love Shelvey as well. It was great.
You're going to put him lower than Bowyer then?
What's your most memorable Shelvey moment?
Oh, there's a few. The free kick he scored.
The offside goal where he ran through and just carried on.
That's brilliant.
So
who was that against?
Sheffield United, maybe.
That was brilliant.
That was so good. That was faces and everything like that.
Yeah.
And when they were kicking off with him and all that kind of thing, it was just like, nah. Brilliant.
It was good on the ref for not blowing, wasn't it? Because he's like, it was just when all that had started coming around, wasn't it?
Nah, he was good. I've probably only got 5 of that for him.
You've got 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Rob Lee.
Have I got 1 and 2 left?
You've got 1.
Oh God.
You've got 1, 7 and 10.
He's not a 10.
He's not a 10.
He's not a 10.
He's not a 7.
He's not a 7.
But he's not a 1 though, is he?
No, you've only got a choice of 3. You've either go...
I'm going to stick him as a 7. I know it's harsh, and
Kieran Dyer.
What? He's not number 1.
No, he's 10.
Check Tiote.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's not right, but
You'd put, if you'd have put Rob Lee 1, I think then that wouldn't have been a... That would have been a pretty bang on.
Once that came out, you're fine.
I think if you'd have put Rob Lee 1, that would have...
From the ones you said in there, our best midfielders, I think, are the Tonali, Bruno, Jolinton,
and Rob Lee.
And you got then in the style, you got Rob Lee in there, haven't you?
Yeah,
big style.
That would be my top
I mean, the
4.
likes of Kieran Dyer, Flatter to Deceive, Bowyer. Again, I'd have him below Dyer. And then you fight about it if they want.
When you're saying that about the current midfield, like where they're sitting.
Yeah. See, I thought he was going to
have 3 of them at the same time where you would rank them that high.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to put someone like Beardsley out.
Yeah.
Because I know Beardsley was an attacking player, but so was Kieran Dyer.
Yeah.
And Beardsley used to play off
the forward.
And for me, he would be in the top 3 easy.
In terms of all-time Newcastle players, Beardsley's up there kind of thing.
We've had a few where we've had like Gaza and stuff, and then you come back to the
Terry
thing of like...
McDermott, Gaza, David McCreary.
But you come back to the thing with Gaza, it's like he didn't play here that long, did he? And like... But he was like...
Oh, he was...
unbelievable.
He'd be in my top 3.
Yeah. I think... And the other thing is that the argument we had before was that the three at the minute have won a trophy, so that automatically puts them.
Yeah, exactly right.
If you had them 1, 2, and 3, no one could argue because of that. I think so.
Out of the three of them, though, I think Tonali is the better.
I think so.
And then I had to toss it between Joe Linton and Bruno,
I think
although I'd probably pick Bruno just because he's our captain.
Yeah. I think
but there's no difference.
Tonali's the best all-rounder. He can do everything.
He's unbelievable.
Whereas Joelinton's like...
destroyer.
Yeah, and Bruno's like... He just
If Joe Linton was worth 40 million and we bought him as a centre-forward, how much do you think he's worth as a dominating midfield player?
Well, you can't buy that, can you? People are going
to would get double our money back.
You get double that easy, yeah. It's like when they're talking about Juventus coming in for Tonali, it's like, tell me how they could afford to buy Tonali. Like,
well, we bought him for 50 million quid, didn't we?
Yeah, 50,
he's worth
55.
100 million easy now.
Yeah.
If Bruno's worth 100, so's Tonali, easy.
Yeah. Did you see the stats of Bruno when it was like he's the most fouled player?
Yeah,
but it wasn't even like it wasn't only just. He was like he'd been fouled like 300 times. The next person was like 60.
Him and Gordon's up there as well with fouled, isn't he? Bruno plays that so well.
Right, last one then. Blind rank these Newcastle United defenders. These are like centre backs. So Philip Albert.
Everyone knows his name. I'm liking this, Dave, under pressure. That's great.
It is. It's hard at the start, isn't it? Trying to gauge.
I know, but it's Philip
But you shouldn't really. So I'm going to have him as a 3.
Good shout.
Nikos Dabizas.
Eight.
Jean-Alain Boumsong.
Oh, God.
He was fucking awful, wasn't he?
Yeah, stick him as a 10.
He's just gone into coaching somewhere, I think.
Has he?
Yeah.
Fabian Schär. Got to be one of the best pound-for-pound signings we've had.
Where did I put Albert? Did I put him
3?
4? 3.
Yeah.
3, and you've got Dabizas at 8.
What you going?
I'm going to go 4.
4. Darren Peacock.
Good old Peacock. I've got a story about Darren Peacock, but it's probably not appropriate for that. It involved a hotel in Gateshead.
Did he buy it?
No. He spent some time there. He used to run laps of it. Anyway. I'm going to put him as a... Did I do 8?
8 for Dabizas, yeah.
I'm going to go...
8 and 10 you've done.
I'm going to stick him as a 9.
Kieran Clark.
Well, I've got left 6. Emilio
7.
7.
7, aye.
Titus Bramble.
Couldn't stand Bramble. I'm disappointed now because I would put it in 10.
Are you disappointed with
Whatever
yourself?
my lowest I've
6.
got left. Absolutely cannot stand him.
So you've got 1, 2, and 5 left.
Messy.
Stephen Taylor.
5.
Jonathan Woodgate.
You got 1 and 2 left there.
2.
Sven Botman.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We're all right.
Didn't work out too bad.
The only ones that worked out badly were the
Bramble.
Bramble.
Bramble, I would have had him.
Because you would have had him.
There's not enough.
You would have had Dabizas above him
there's
and
not-
Peacock above
yeah.
him.
There's not enough 10s in this list when you've got Bramble and Boomsong in the same thing. It's like can't have either of them as a
Stephen Taylor.
9. Can't have either of them as a 9. They should
I
both
went,
be lower.
I used to know this lad and I went to Obafemi Martin's 21st birthday party.
You did?
Yeah. This
Was it
lad
his
I knew
21st?
that.
He was actually 30, but it was his 21st.
It was his 21st. And
Where
it
was it?
like,
A pub?
It was downstairs in what was Layla Lily's.
Oh, right,
You know,
yeah,
the
I know what you mean.
basement
Yeah,
bar.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Grey Street Hotel or
So
whatever.
went there. This lad I knew says, "Oh, do you want to go to such and such's party?" I was like, "Yeah, hell aye." So went and it was like ice sculptures and all this kind of thing, like totally over the top. Any case, it was a decent party. I was there with the missus, and Stephen Taylor came in, and we had a decent bit to drink. And one of the first things my wife went up to Stephen Taylor. I thought she was going to like say, "Oh, hi," and she had said in some colourful language that he wasn't very good. So we just had to leave after that. So she just walked up and bold as brass and just said, "Stephen,
You're not very good.
you're not the best."
Yeah.
Can you remember when didn't him and Andy Carroll had a fallout at training, didn't they, over some
I think there was
girl or whatever?
There's
I
only
think
one
Carroll
winner.
gave him a hiding, didn't he? I think.
There's only one winner there.
There's probably loads that goes on. We don't even
Yeah,
hear
you
about
don't hear about it.
footballers. Man, come on.
Yeah, especially.
least-
Can you remember was it Joey Barton? He put the fucking cigar out in that guy's eye, didn't he?
It was Man City, though, I think.
At Man City, yeah.
Who was it when Boyer and Dyer got sent off?
Yeah.
Who was the other player that got sent off that day? And I can't remember off the top of my head because we went down to 8.
No idea.
Boy, Dyer got sent off.
That was shot. We're 3. We're down to 8 by half time.
We've had some shameful moments.
Stephen Taylor.
Was it Stephen Taylor?
Yeah. She told him after that, I'm pretty sure.
She was right. She was right.
He'd already been sent off.
What you don't know is David's wife's been called in by Eddie Howe. She's gone as a consultant for next season.
Yeah, he got sent off first, and then they had a fight, and they both got sent off. Yeah,
that was awful. I remember that game.
I was in that game. I was on the sideline.
Souness was the manager. So imagine getting in the changing room with him after that.
But you know what happened afterwards? He basically went in, because Shearer tells the story, they went into the change room and he just said, if you want to fight, you've got to fight me. Or something like that, you know?
Well, there used to be a thing about Shearer when he was a kid. He used to have a dog, apparently, and people used to wonder who was hardest, Shearer or his dog.
Did you see, he was on a podcast with Crouchy the other day, and he was talking about, he was saying, like, they were asking him, like, who he liked to play with, and he said, like, Les was his favourite.
Yeah.
He said, obviously, Sutton and that, he had great, but he said he was gutted that he didn't get longer with Fernandes, because he said...
And Dalglish sold... Shearer got injured, and Dalglish sold Ferdinand, or Ferdinand got sold, and then was sold... I think what happened was we sold Ferdinand, or he was in the process of selling Ferdinand, and Shearer got injured that week.
Right.
In training. Was it in training or something?
He was saying that...
God, it was devastating.
He said, like, they didn't have to work on it. They didn't work on it in training. They just got on the pitch, and it just, like, happened. But he was saying that they both loved... early crosses, that's what they wanted. Like, get the ball, put it in a box.
Ginola.
That's what he was saying.
And I don't think Shearer really got the best of Ginola.
Yeah.
Because he was injured. But
he did say on this podcast, he said that Ginola would do loads of fancy stuff, and he said it had been like 5 games and he hadn't put one cross in the box. So he said when they got in the change room, they just fucking laid into him really bad. Like, he said, like, fucking nearly came to blows. But he said after that, he started crossing and we scored
one of my favourite goals.
So
Ginola runs down the left, crosses it, and Ferdinand just smashes it in with his head, because he was a great header of the ball.
Unreal,
I agree with you. It was top man in, mate.
Yeah. Cool.
Good.
All right. All finished then. Thanks for coming in, David. We'll...
No problem. And remember, charity begins at home, Dave, doesn't it?
Charity begins at charity.
Yeah.